This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning and welcome to the start of our rather chilly, frigid sunrise safari. It's a cold 10 degrees here in South Africa, which is 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and it is going to be, well, a chilly start to our day. I think we're going to have to probably man up to a bit of a cold start, and once the sun gets up, hopefully it's going to warm up fairly quickly. Now, my name is Tristan. On camera, I've got a Fergus this morning. There we go. Fergus has got his little walking fingers out today. There we go, little dancing Fergus is what we'll call those, and so it's a good start to the morning. It's a chipper start, I would say, and we are coming to you live, which means hashtag SafariLive on Twitter or YouTube chat stream if you want to ask any questions or have any comments for us for the course of the duration of the drive. Right, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be scratching around. Seems as though a lot of you have said there's been lots going on the dam cam. So lots of wild dogs calling, and I believe lions calling, and the sound of maybe a little daycare meeting its end. So what we're going to do is we're going to just start off where Hosanna was last night. We're just going to do a little loop past there, and then I'm going to come down towards the pan. I'm pretty sure he finished his kill because last night at around 7:15, there was bushbuck alarm calling in front of or around Galago Pan, and so I feel like maybe he came for water there, finished his kill, and maybe he was the one that caught a little duiker somewhere close to camp. So I'm just going to check there, see which way the tracks go, give us an idea of which way we're going to go, and then from there we'll try and scratch around. Now, wild dogs, unfortunately, until it gets a little lighter, is going to be very difficult because they move so quickly and their tracks are quite small, and if it's only one or two wild dogs, it can be really tricky to track them in under the cover of darkness, and so we'll try and just get into that a little bit later. Maybe Sydney, when he's out on walk, will be able to help us and give us a hand as we go along. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to just try and head straight north at the moment. Now, Linda, you say, here we go. Exactly, we are going on an adventure once again, as we do every day, basically. And hopefully we're going to have a very successful adventure, because after yesterday's morning of leopard trials and tribulations in form of tracks going in 400 million directions and it being very difficult to find any of them, and then hearing in the afternoon that where we turned around to stop tracking those leopards, there was Hosanna with a duiker kill, which it was quite funny actually, because we were talking and I was saying that it sounded almost like a little baby hyena that was making a bit of a squealing noise, and it was difficult because we were talking at the time, and so it always makes it much harder to hear something when you're talking, especially when you've got someone talking in your ear while you're talking. It makes it quite hard to hear what's going on around you, and so I wasn't sure what we heard. I guess that maybe, just maybe, it was a little baby hyena that might have been making a noise. It sounded a little similar to that, and then when I stopped and I spoke to Herbie, both of us immediately said, we kind of talked about it and came to the conclusion that it was a little duiker dying. And I remember saying to James and Sydney, one of you needs to go on to Galago shortcuts and just go and check where our tracks turn around. Just drive into the block there. You should be lucky, and maybe you'll find a leopard on a kill. And as it turns out, it was Hosanna that had managed to kill that duiker, which is always quite interesting. So it was a leopard conundrum, and at least it came to something in the afternoon, but we would like to settle the score this morning and find a leopard of our own. Hey, Fergus, that would be nice. Or wild dogs for Fergus actually would be also very, very nice. Anyway, while I try and head northwards and search and see if Hosanna is around, let's send you to, well, the other vehicle that's out this morning. It's Jamie Patterson up in the Masai Mara, and hopefully she's going to have a far less dramatic morning.
Who's heading southwards but in a very, very different location. Good morning to all of you and welcome to the Sunrise Safari. My name is Jamie, and this morning Archie is on camera with me, and this is live from the Masai Mara in Kenya, where it did not stop raining from around about when I left you sometime halfway through the Sunset Safari yesterday due to gremlins, up until about 10 minutes ago. So even though Archie and myself have been out since 5 a.m, this is the first time we've been actually useful because we've had the rain covers down. Look how much it's rained. This was dry. Oh, goodness. Listen to... I'm just going to be quiet for a moment so you can hear the frogs. cool is that? Really, really cool. It's very beautiful. Somewhat chilly, but really beautiful. And we have a hammerkop to start off our morning. Our hammerkops love this weather because the frogs start going absolutely crazy and hop all over the show. And it means that for them, it's an easy meal. Although sometimes I've watched them bite off far more than they can actually legitimately chew, so to speak, or swallow. Tad, you say, wow, it's a lake over here. It's exactly what it is. I was going to try and get us to the North Clan hyena den, but I can't. There's no way I can actually get there without completely messing up the road, which isn't very fair on the reserve. So we're going to leave North Clan for now. You know what's even more amazing? Is that yesterday, this entire place, this entire section that we're looking at, was full of wildebeest. I see, Bobby, as we look at our wattled lapwing, you say, wow, wonderful sounds. They are wonderful, aren't they? I'll let you enjoy them for a little bit more. Let me stop talking. Cobalt, you want to know where do all these frogs live when it's not raining? Well, we have actually, I was about to say it never stops raining in the Mara, but that's not true because we've just had about a month and a half of total dry. So Cobalt, what they'll do is they'll often bury themselves in holes and estivate in the dry, or they will, because there's so much water retention in the soil here, it's these volcanic black cotton soils, there's usually at least 1 or 2 little pools in an area, which often catch us out when we're driving, but there'll be places where the frogs can actually live, and eat, I suppose. But if necessary, they do estivate, so they bury themselves in the ground, or they find themselves a nice secret place, and they estivate, which is like hibernating, but for the dry. Wow. Where did all the wildebeest go? There were 500,000 of them here yesterday. Well, we better go find out then, I guess, since it stopped raining. I'm excited to hear the news of the potential hyena cub noise. Faith has suggested they might have gone back to the Serengeti already. I suspect you're not actually far off from the truth. I mean, they won't be in Serengeti yet, but they will be south. Oh no, it's raining again. I'm just gonna ignore it. Just gonna do some quick counting here of herons and hammerkops. This is literally hammerkop central. They're absolutely everywhere. Hammerkops and herons. They must be very chuffed. Oh, hammerkops, herons. I can see, just quickly, doing a really quick count, I can see over 10 hammerkops and over 10 herons. More than, actually. Probably 15 of each species. Crazy. Watch out, frogs. Cal6, whose name I think I'm getting right these days. Cal6, the Mara River this year rose to almost flood levels around about May. Tristan knows all about that. He was here too. We nearly lost our river cameras in that flood, and in fact some people came very close to losing their lives, and I believe that actually one person did drown in the Mara River floods, which is terribly tragic, desperately trying to get across. Tourist vehicles were washed away. So yes, it has risen much. It did rise a lot earlier in the year. I don't know what that sentence was trying to be. However, now I'm not sure. I might pop past there and just see what level it's at. It was very low, and it's usually, if it rains here, that doesn't make much of a difference to the Mara River levels. If it rains upstream, closer to the source of the Mara River, in the highlands, that is when you start to see dramatic waters. Rima, you say, whoa, the colour on these birds. I know. It's a sort of a blue-grey, steel. I don't know, it's beautiful. It really is absolutely beautiful. And I can't help myself. Every time I see them, I know it's different species, but I think of the heron in Farthing Wood. It's so intrinsically ingrained in my mind from reading those books as a child. Often. They were some of my favourites. I think its name was Whistler, the heron. Yes, Fuzzman. Fuzzman Sparkles wants me to look out for other water birds today. I will, absolutely. There is a good chance that we could find some really fun birds as we go along. So I will keep an eye out for them. The rufous-bellied heron was one that we sort of saw regularly not so long ago. Speak and it shall be answered. Amazing. It's raining again. You can see the pitter-patter of the water. Now, it is almost at the point between the seasons where Djuma and the Masai Mara are becoming light at the same time, but we're not quite there yet, and Tristan still has to use his spotlight.
Indeed, Jamie, but not much longer. I mean, it's starting to get quite light quite quickly, and so, you know, we'll soon be at that point where both Djuma and Mara are bathed in golden sunshine at the start of a drive, or at least have a sunrise to start the drive, because it's still a little on the dark side, which is okay. It's quite nice actually being out when it's still a little bit on the dark kind of side of life, because you can often hear things. So when you're sitting in the morning in the sort of parking area and you're getting all your stuff done for the vehicle, it's such a nice time for me just to kind of hear what's going on. Now, this morning was very quiet. I didn't hear too much, but yesterday morning we heard, you know, bushbuck alarm calls as James was getting ready and we were getting ready for a walk, and kind of figured out that there was something around, even though we didn't find it yesterday morning. There definitely was something around. So, you know, it was nice to kind of sit there and just take it all in. And it's, I suppose, not that nice though when it's as cold as it is this morning. It really has changed. It's strange because we've had such pleasant mornings. It's kind of, we forgot how cold it can get in the winter months. And I know 10 degrees doesn't sound like much, but when there is absolutely no shielding from this horrible wind, then it gets quite cold quite quickly, doesn't it, Fergus? Fergus has got his hands as tucked in gloves and all kinds of other things to stay warm. Bob, have I ever seen a polydactyl cat? No, I haven't, to be honest with you. Yeah, no, is the short answer. I have not. I would imagine it does happen, I suppose. It's difficult to say though. What's this here on the right? No, those are little nyalas that are sitting on our right hand side. They are looking a little bit like they are quite cold. So underneath this big tree here is just some eyes. So I thought for a second maybe, just maybe, there might have been something lurking. Now you can't see much, and this is kind of our view that we've got at the moment, but there in the middle of the frame you can see the nyalas actually lying down. Yeah, so it's quite difficult at this time of the day. That's why we say it's quite hard, especially just before that sun rises properly. You get this weird kind of light, and it makes it incredibly difficult to spot animals because your spotlight doesn't work that well, and neither does your eyesight, and you get this kind of flat appearance. There's no definition or contrast in coloration between the sort of bush and the various things that move around, and that's why spotting at this time of the day can be one of the hardest things, and you rely more on your hearing than anything else when it's still this kind of period. As soon as the sun is up a little bit and there's a bit of light, then your eyesight becomes hugely important. But those guys look very relaxed. It doesn't look as though there's a leopard anywhere near this area. They're all sitting down and ruminating and tucking themselves up on a cold morning. I would imagine that's why they're sitting like that, is just to try and kind of insulate a little bit, get those legs in underneath the body, sit, rest, ruminate a little bit, and then they'll start moving as the sun gets up and they can actually see what's going on. So not surprised at all. But they don't look like they've seen any of our animals that we're trying to find, so it doesn't look like any sign of a leopard, wild dogs or lions have walked anywhere near this area this morning. So there's certainly no tracks for them. What we have found a lot of tracks for is hyenas, and I did go past where Hosanna had his kill, but I mean, there's not even a hyena, there's nothing there anymore. I couldn't find any sign of any beings around there, and there's definitely no meat in a tree. So I believe it was a very small duiker, so I'm pretty sure he's gone for water. I just want to go and check Gallego Pan now. So Romit's, yeah, it's very sad actually. We haven't seen our camp Janet at all for about a year now. We haven't seen her, and normally she used to come around, or we say her, it was a her, yes. We used to see her coming around in the winter months when food was a little harder to come by. Then we used to see her kind of milling about camp, and we haven't seen her. So I hope nothing bad happened to her, but it definitely seems like she's not kind of using camp anymore. You know, normally you would see her at least every kind of maybe 2 weeks or so. You'd find her coming around, and now she just doesn't come around at all. So either she's found a mate and has gone into a slightly different territory, or she's for some reason just, you know, unfortunately got killed somewhere by something. There's a lot of things that eat Janets, from leopards to Rose eagle owls to what else goes after them? I mean, a lion would theoretically eat them if they could, even wild dogs, those kind of things. Anything that can really overpower them, which is quite a lot out here. Snakes would go after them. Now, tracks for a lot of ellies around here that look like from during the night. I believe the ellies were quite busy yesterday afternoon at both this pan and at the pan around in front of Vuatela camp, so little Vuatela pan, Hosanna's haunt. Now I say that in jest, we haven't actually named it after Hosanna at all. It's just a play thing that we are doing, and just saying that it should be at some point named after him at this rate, but I'm pretty sure he'll leave it as soon as summer comes. He's not going to be sitting there like he is now. Tina, who's my favorite animal to keep tabs on? Well, I mean, I'd say the leopards in general. It's not only one leopard, just all of them in general. Thoroughly enjoy kind of keeping tabs on all the leopards that I've spent a lot of time with. So always try and look out for updates on Anderson, updates on Tamba, Tiani, you know, any of the leopards that I've actually spent time with. But I keep a particularly close eye on Tamba and where he is and what he's getting up to and how he's going about things. He's obviously one of my favorites, and so I always like to kind of watch and see where he is. Now, lots and lots and lots of buffalo dung all over here. I believe there was buffalo that's hung around here yesterday for most of the day. Now, funny enough, actually, it was quite a funny story, is that yesterday morning on our way back from our bushwalk, essentially what happened was we had finished kind of tracking and we were on our way home, and Gallego Pan is very, very close, and this is a good lesson actually for anybody who is wanting to be a field guide at some point, and or even for anyone that visits out here. So essentially we're coming from this northern side and we were walking along, and we kind of were nonchalantly walking to be honest with you. We were just kind of going and doing our thing. And as we came down through this kind of vegetation on the northern side, we came around this little bush. So this bush right here that I'm using my spotlight to highlight, that guarri bush over there. Now we rounded that corner and we're face to face with a decent number of buffalo bulls. And so we thought, well, we need to just kind of get ourselves out of this, but none of them had seen us, and so we backtracked a little bit and we went up onto this termite mound over here. But as we went up onto this termite mound, so wind and a bit of noise of us shuffling up the mound attracted the attention of all of these buffalo, and needless to say, they were not impressed to see us at all. And so first they ran away from the water a little bit and stood there with their noses up as only a buffalo can, staring you down like you are you're about to be smothered with horns and fury, and kind of watched them for a while, and then they started to turn, and all of a sudden they just came straight back and they started running at the termite mound itself. And so the whole group of them, which there must have been, how many, 15 or so of them, about that, started all running together in unison, horns forward like they would to chase lions, and they started running at us, and they stopped somewhere just to the left of this fallen over tree is where they stopped. So you can imagine that's us on top there, that's where they stopped. And the only reason they stopped is because Herbie came through the bush and tapped on his rifle and made a lot of noise to try and kind of just get them to realize that we're up on top. And from there they then bolted and ran straight past us, and it's quite something to be on foot and hear the thundering of buffalo hooves as they come past you, and just the crashing of trees. They were knocking trees over. They were not in a good mood at all. And so I feel like maybe, just maybe, the Nkuhuma pride had something to do with all of that, and it put them in a foul mood to start their day. So it was a bit of a close call, and not an ideal kind of circumstance to get ourselves into, but we managed to get out of it and we're all okay. So that was all very good news that nobody managed to get squashed by a buffalo. I'm quite happy that no one got squashed, to be honest. So Cheryl, you say your heart was in your throat for that entire story. I can assure you that the hearts were in our throats too for the entire experience, if I'm honest. What was that, Vic? Exactly, yes. If the buffalo had got us, our hearts would have maybe been where our throats were, exactly, quite literally. So, you know, we needed to just try and get out of it quite quickly, and luckily for us, everything was okay, and we managed to sort it all out, and we managed to get home safely in the end, thanks to Herbie, and for the most part Herbie. I think also our group size, you know, also helps us a little bit. Anyway, we're going to keep looking around, keep scanning. I'm checking all the trees in case there's a duiker hanging from them after that squeal that you guys heard. And so while I check for that, let's send you back across to Jamie, who I'm not sure if she's still busy with the Hammerkorps making all that noise.
A Hammerkorp and one very unfortunate frog. I mentioned earlier that sometimes Hammerkorp bite off more than they can chew, so to speak, or choose food that is just that little bit too big to swallow. One thing we can tell you about Hammerkorps is that they certainly don't give up. So we've got a Hammerkorp. It was a bit closer to us. Unfortunately, it decided to fly away, which I understand because it had to look for a nice level dry surface to proceed with trying to swallow this mouthful. I don't know about you, but I have absolutely no idea how this Hammerkorp is going to manage this. It basically spends the entire time trying to position the frog in a way that it can swallow it whole, but it's a really big frog, a very big, very now flat frog, thanks to the attentions of the Hammerkorp's beak, and with rather long limbs. And I'm very impressed with the Hammerkorp's, what would the word be? Persistence, I suppose, determination. I mean, never let size stand between you and a good meal. I wonder if the other Hammerkorps are jealous or if they're laughing at it. Oh, there goes Ted again. I don't know why I said Ted, but anyway. We've warned him and warned him about this. And on he goes. One lone Hammerkorp struggle. Chitty Chatty Mick says that he's going to have a frog in his throat. Touche, I can't believe I didn't think of that. Absolutely, he is going to have a frog in his throat. Well, that's the theory anyway. I'm not so sure that it's working out terribly well for him. The wilderness is a gauntlet, everyone. Every animal has to face their own challenges. And this particular Hammerkorp's gauntlet that it has to run is swallowing an overly large frog. Imagine if we said that in a TV series. Oh, look, we've got more birds coming to join us. We've got some bald ibises. A flock has just landed and they are wading through. Kelly, while it is unlikely that crocs would be in this water, it is entirely possible particularly since it is a very large body of water and it's been dry up until now, so space has been at a premium. So yes, it is possible that you could find a crocodile in this water. Unlikely, but possible. And a corpse laughing at me, or perhaps it's laughing at Ted. It is... What was I talking about? Oh yes, crocodiles. They do occasionally catch water birds, actually. It's unusual to see, but it does happen. Oh, this is so beautiful. It really, really is. How nice is it to just sit and stop and stare? I haven't done this in so long. Very sensitive bills of the ibis. Nerve endings that detect minute movement in the mud as they probe and grab things like mollusks and worms and tadpoles and all sorts of things. Rima, that's the interesting thing about the Mara. Rima's question is, when will migratory birds start arriving? And I think I'm going to have to move the vehicle slightly because the wind is blowing the rain in thoroughly onto our left side, which is where all of our electronics sit. And as determined as I have been to avoid this reality, I don't think I can anymore. I'm just going to block up the road completely. It'll be much nicer for us. Oh, except for the drips from the roof. Rima, the interesting thing about the Mara is that a lot of what we consider migratory species in South Africa are actually permanently resident here. So, the woodlands kingfisher, for example, some of them don't actually migrate. Some of them stay. Let me duck down so you can watch this. It's much nicer than looking at the back of my head. Some of them stay throughout the year in the Masai Mara. And they'll stay in the sort of river areas around the Sand River. They don't necessarily call all that much, but they will be here, as do certain cuckoos that stick around all year. But in terms of when they arrive, well, some of the migratory species have already passed over. So the Wahlberg's eagles that have arrived in South Africa have already passed over here. There is a migratory route. And then some birds just get blown off course completely, like the flamingos that Tristan saw in the Mara not so long ago. That's not a migratory bird species, but it's just an example of how weather systems can impact them. So the answer is already. Although the Mara, because it is a sort of a year-round ecosystem with lots of rain, MK, you say that the frogs have got a good beat going. Absolutely. Very drum-like call. I rate you could do a serious remix of that, if you were so inclined. I don't think I'm creative enough. The beat of the frogs. Oh, I had something to tell you. So, the little baby elephant is absolutely fine. They darted it yesterday, and they managed to rescue it and remove the snare. So for those of you that missed that update initially, 2 days ago Archie and myself went to go and help the Conservancy film the darting of a baby elephant who'd picked up a wire snare around its bottom jaw, and we never found it. Well, we did find it, we found it, but the conditions were such that it was not possible to dart it and remove it. And then yesterday, one of the guests actually found the baby elephant, called the Conservancy, and they came in and darted it and removed the snare. So good news for the little baby elephant. We're all thrilled. I'm really very happy that there was a nice ending to a very sad story. It's still traumatic for the poor little creature, but it is certainly better than walking around with a piece of wire sticking out of its mouth. I'm just trying to rescue all my stuff away from the water, which is making its way in. Here we go. 3 different species: Hammerkorps, ibis, and the black-headed heron. The black heron's face. You talking about me? Carol, I've got absolutely no idea exactly how many species of frogs there are in the Mara. I'm afraid I imagine you'd probably be looking at around about 20 to 30, but I'm honestly not 100% certain. I don't think it would be that different from the number of species in Djuma. Even though it is a much wetter environment, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's a greater variety. I'm guessing though, I really am. A lot of the species are very similar. You'll still get the painted reed frogs. You'll still get the grass frogs. What's that one with a funny name? Mascarene frog. Now I can hear a lion, and I'm hoping that the rain has ceased enough for me to drive there without having the covers down. So I'm going to try and do that. Oh, beautiful. So while we do that, let's go and see whether or not Tristan has found anything on Djuma.
Well, Jamie, there's alarm calls and audio for a leopard calling, and I'm just checking from the pan, but I don't see anything at the moment. So James heard it, I've heard it, Herbie's heard it, so it's somewhere close here. Those are the tracks from yesterday. Just double checking here, must be here somewhere close. So I'm hoping that it will call and we'll be able to hear it once more. What I'm going to do is I just want to go into this block and drive along the drainage line back a little bit and hope that from there I pick up some sign of him. James reckons it's just north of the pan. I was a bit far off to really get a proper kind of positioning. I just heard the alarm calls from this area and it was quite far, so difficult to know exactly where it was. So what I want to try and do is just coast along here a little bit. There's a nice big pathway that goes along and hopefully we'll be able to find this leopard. But if it's calling leopard, then I suspect it's not Hosanna, which is interesting. Now let's just turn off and see if we can hear anything again. It's always important when you kind of have alarm calls and stuff, is just to turn off and listen. The problem is that things like bushbuck, nyala, they don't bark for very long. They bark a few times and then they run. And their bark often triggers a leopard to call. And once the leopard calls and the animals run away, then often they go back into kind of stealth mode. But I don't see any sign this side. Now hopefully James, who's in the tent, is why he can hear anything, is if he hears it again will let us know and we'll be able to find exactly where it's calling or turn off in time. So funny, we were just at the pan and then obviously this leopard called just as we left, so we had to come racing back again. Now it would be very nice if he called again, I can tell you that. Weekend escape? No, not weird for them to break their canines. Happens fairly regularly. It's one of those things that you see. So they break them on all kinds of things. So I've got tracks here going to the west. I just need to answer Taxon quickly. Yeah, FM taxes me. I'm just trying to check. James says he heard this leopard calling from somewhere here. So I'm just having a quick look to see if I can find any signs on this, around this 2-track. So there was a track for a male going up that way. This is like deja vu. This is where I spent my entire morning yesterday, was all around these thickets, looking around. Just trying to listen again. For something just to give us some sort of indication. James says he can hear it calling. I can't hear anything at all. I mean, if he was close, we would hear him very easily. I wonder if maybe we're just not a little bit too far to the west with him. Rex has got tracks now for a male going up in Mvubu, which could very well be the same male. Alright, let's check what else we can find here. I mean, I feel like he's somewhere close. It's just a matter of kind of picking him up again. Just trying to check all these pathways, trying to see if I can find some tracks. There's definitely alarm calls were from here, so if I can just find those antelope as well. Right, now I'm gonna keep scratching around in this area, try and see if I can find something, and if I can, well, that will be good. But in the meantime, we're going to employ the services of Herbie and Sydney on the bushwalk, and so let's go across to them so that they can say good morning.
A very, very good morning and welcome to the beginning of the guided walk. I am right here next to Galago Pen, where I have just picked up an alarm call. I'm trying to check here as there has been a bushbuck giving an alarm call showing that there is a predator in the area. Not too sure if it was Hosana or Istingan or any other cat in this area. My name is Sydney. I am going to be with you this morning on this guided walk. I am with Dave, who is my camera operator this morning, and we are going to try by all means to give you the best experience ever. For your questions and comments, you can follow us on Twitter, #SafariLive. You can also find us on YouTube chat stream. The weather this morning is perfect. It's not windy, it's very cool, which is the best weather for trekking. So maybe this morning we are going to see a lot of animal from trekking. But first, I'm going to look for this predator who is disturbing these bushbucks here where I am at the moment. Romet, I didn't copy your question very nicely. You're asking if this... Robin, the prey species at the moment, all these other prey species where I am are very much aware of this predation taking place here. So that is why, if you can check, every time they are helping each other. Whoever sees the predator first is the one giving an alarm call. Where there is a lot of predators, you must be sure and you must be aware that the species occurring there are very sure of what is happening in the area. That is why some of the prey species, they mobilize. You will see them in big groups for safety purposes. As these prey species, some of them has got good eyesight, whereas some of them has got poor eyesight and some good hearing ability. So they make sure that they're together so that they can be able to combine and try to get hold of the predators in the area. K6, that is one of the animals I'm hoping to see. Snakes, I love them a lot. So here in Djuma Game Reserve, I have only seen evidence that they are big snakes here, such as black mambas. I've seen their tracks. I can be able to identify some of these snakes from their tracks, but the snakes itself, I haven't seen any. Yes, the tracks, I have seen them a lot. It's showing that now the snakes, they are starting to come out. Look at this beautiful sunrise. It's very nice and camping here by the eastern side of the Juma Game Reserve this morning. So I hope the sun is not going to be very much strong, but the weather is very much clear. It's showing that it's going to be very warm very shortly. This is very much beautiful. So I am right here by Galagopen, which is one of the closest water source from where I have started the guided walk. And I'm trying to check here if I can also find some other very much fresh tracks of the predators. But what I'm seeing here a lot is the evidence of buffaloes. It's showing that the buffaloes has been here. There's some droppings of the buffaloes. Just want to try and open to check how old are these. This is just about a day old. I heard that yesterday on a guided walk they did see some buffaloes. So it means these buffaloes came here for a drink. You can see that this is still very much fresh. It's not even dry yet. This is how the inner parts of the buffalo droppings looks like. So when the sun is burning is when the outer layer part is going to be very much dry. Dory, these plants, they do have a lot of variety of uses, but the plant that I like the most, which has got a lot of uses, it is a plant which is called the sickle bush. Sickle bush and what is called the silver cluster leaf is also a plant. While I'm walking this morning, I'm going to pick up some of these trees so that you can be able to see them. It's just that these trees, by this time of the year, it's difficult to identify them because they don't have leaves, they don't have flowers, but from the bark and the arrangement of the branches, we can identify them because we know them. When coming across those kind of trees, I will show you. And those are the trees that must have to be around for in case if anything happens. But even if they are not trees, there is quite a lot of things that I can use in order to help myself when experiencing problems here in the bush. Here I've got something. This is something very much useful. So this is an elephant dung. You can see that apart from finding the trees themselves, you can come and have this. This is a combination of a lot of medicinal plants on it. There's quite a lot of bark. So instead of going for the actual tree, you can come and use the elephant dung in order to help to fight against some of these problems. Simple problems such as the toothaches, problems such as the headaches, the elephant can also clear that. This dung is very much important. I always call it mother of all medicines. So while I am trying to check what I'm going to find for you here, now we can go to Tristan, who is also looking for a leopard. I am hearing some of the lion roars and everything from this direction here. So it means maybe lions are excited by the presence of the buffaloes in the area. Not too sure if the roars are coming from the property or outside.
Well, good luck, Sydney. Hopefully you'll be able to find things, and hopefully you'll be able to help us find the leopard. I can see Sydney on bushwalk right here, so he's not far from where we are. And these leopards are right here. They're playing games with us once again, and it's going to be difficult to find them. You know, once they go quiet, that's the end of it, really. And if Tingana sees somebody on foot, and there's a duiker right there that's not too perturbed and is running away from us, not from leopard. So, you know, once they see people on foot, they're going to not be hanging around very much, especially if it's Tingana. He's, we know, quite shy when it comes to being seen on foot. So hopefully we'll pick him up somewhere here. He'll soar once more for us, but there's tracks in all directions for him and a female. So it's not just him by himself. There's female and male tracks that Herbie's found. So I'm just scratching around here, just trying to see if I can see any sign. I mean, it's difficult, you know, when you get an alarm call like this, you know the leopard is here, but it's just a matter of turning the right corner at the right time to be able to see him. So, Romans, no word on Gijima, or that I've heard. I mean, you know, he's so seldom tracked or looked for that it's difficult to actually get any updates on him, and every skittish leopard that gets seen is Kajima, even if it sometimes isn't him. So I haven't really heard too much on him, but I'm pretty sure he's north of us in Buffelshoek doing his thing. I don't think there's too much to worry about. I know he had a bit of a spat with Tingana a while ago, and Tingana came out on top apparently. So these tracks are right here for Hosanna. This is Hosanna's tracks that I can see that are going south back towards the pan. Where, oh where, oh where are these leopards? Moods. So I would say that, I mean, the most difficult things to identify are often the smaller things when it comes to tracks. So, you know, things like mongoose, squirrels, those kind of things can be a bit tricky if you don't know really what you're looking for. So you can often kind of get yourself a bit turned around with those kind of tracks. But you know, for the most part, most tracks, once you know what you're looking at and what you're looking for, they can be a lot easier. The other tracks that are really difficult are anything left behind by insects. Insects can really be quite tough, and certain birds, there's no way to tell the difference between, let's say, a starling and a sparrow. So you know, these kind of things, that's where it starts getting really very, very tricky. You've got to be very careful kind of when you try and identify those kind of tracks. Now I'm just coming up this way because I know Tingana sometimes uses this pathway to walk around, and so just double checking he's not up here with maybe some of the girls. You never know, they might have come up in this direction. It's a big steep drainage that runs on the northern side, and so there's this big path here that I just want to double check quickly and see if I can see any sign of them. It's just leopard tracks all going the opposite direction. So what I'm talking about is this right here. If you have a look on this pathway, there's tracks for buffalo, there's tracks for various other things, but there's also a myriad of leopard tracks coming down. So it looks like female, males, all walking around in this area. So I don't know where they've gone, but this is all on top of the buffalo from yesterday. So these tracks are very fresh. They're from, you know, during the course of this evening or last night and this early morning, they've been milling about in this area. And so I don't know, maybe it's Kajima that's here, we just missing him every time, that just kind of moves away from the vehicles. I don't know, but it's getting quite frustrating to see as many leopard tracks as we are and not really getting anything. But they're all coming down towards the pan. Nothing is going away from it at this stage. So I think that we are probably going the wrong direction. We'll have to turn around and head back down this drainage line, just see if maybe we can find something. James is adamant that it was on the northern side of Gallego, which could be, I suppose, northeast or it could be northwest. It's just difficult to say. So let's quickly go back towards Gallego, pan, and just do a little scratch around and see, maybe we'll get lucky down there. In the meantime, while we do that, let's send you back across the Sydney. Who's got a glorious sunrise.
Look at that. This is very much beautiful because we can even see some of the spider webs from the reflection of that side. This is beautiful. I can see those kind of spider webs hanging on that side. So it's becoming very difficult to see the spider webs from a distance. If there is no reflection these days, it's difficult. I'm sure that is why small insects easily get caught by this kind of sit and wait predators. So, but from here, I can see, oh, I can hear something. Seems like things are happening here because now I can hear the francolins trying to give some of the alarm calls and the lions are roaring. Listen to that. You can hear the lions are roaring as well, not very far away from where I am now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to be walking towards that direction just to try and see if I can see them. I can hear that it is not one lion. It seems like it's quite a few of them. Maybe it is the Unkuhuma pride. Now, I just got a confirmation that these lions must be attracted by these buffaloes here. Here where I am still, there is some buffalo evidence. You can see these droppings. So lions probably must be following these buffaloes. And direction of the tracks on these buffaloes is showing that they went down that way. So we might be lucky with the buffaloes, or we can't escape. The buffalo dungs, they don't really carry the diseases, because these kind of dungs, buffaloes and the cattle dungs, are some of the dungs that we have been using. When I grew up at home where I come from, we were using this in order to do the floor, and you can even do the floor with a cut on the skin, but you won't get problems. So the buffalo dungs, not too sure if they do carry diseases, but I've never seen anybody affected by this kind of diseases such as TBs and others. But I know that when they are having problems such as TBs, when animals are sharing the carcass, they can be able to take these kind of diseases. But getting transferred to the human beings is something that I have not yet discovered. I didn't get the name of the viewer nicely, but the question, I got it very clear. Sir Touch, I do have to learn all these roads. Some of the roads, they do have names, and some of them don't have names, and the pathways don't have names. So it means every time I am doing these guided walks, listen to that. So the lions are really very much close to where I am now. I can hear that the roar is not very far away. I can estimate a distance of even less than a kilometer now. So this is showing that these lions are moving much more towards my direction at the moment. So the sound is coming from that side, and it was a very big roar. At any time, one of us, as also the game drive cars are heading towards that side, might pick them up at any time. So there is quite a lot of pathways that I've got to learn as well when I'm going out every day. And apart from that, the animals themselves, they know they have got a very good navigation system, and their homing is very much successful. So they can travel long distances. Think about birds. Birds can be able to fly long distances all the way to Europe and come back to the same area. You can see that animals are very much well gifted, and they can be very much successful on their navigation system. So now, while I'm looking for some of the animals here where we are, let's go to Tristan. Maybe Tristan has got some updates on the leopard, and I'm hoping to see these lions as they have been roaring not very far away from me.
Well, no updates on the leopard, Sydney. We can't find any more signs than what we're seeing around that pan area, which is lots and lots of tracks around there, and there was obviously audio for the leopard calling and alarm calls, so we know that they're here. It's just much like yesterday in that we're just not winning at all at this stage. So I can't go that way. I don't know. It's frustrating in some respects, because it's just, you know, when you know that you're on top of something and that it's somewhere here, but you just can't see it. It's one of the most frustrating things, and a leopard really knows how to do this. Now, I'm going to try and just head around. So, Proudcat Mama, it depends. It depends on how the leopard grows up, when it becomes territorial. But, you know, it would be anywhere from about, 3.5 years for a female. When she starts coming into her estrous cycles, she'll start to soar, whereas males, it's only dependent on when they actually secure themselves a territory and are confident enough to defend that territory, which could be anywhere from 4 years or 3 years, 3.5 years to 6 years. It depends on when they actually get themselves a territory that they can look after. But I don't see any sign of a leopard here, which is strange because we should have found them by now. There's just so much alarm calls, and it's Murphy's Law. I sat at Gallagher Pan for a long time talking about our buffalo story. As soon as we drive away, then things start alarm calling, leopards start calling, and then by the time we get back, everything's quiet again. So it's one of those kind of things that does happen. It happened to James the other day as well. I think yesterday it happened to James. By the time he got back here, there was nothing that he could find. So just trying to work out where I'm going to go from here. The dam cam might be a good one to watch. You never know, they might appear on that side. They seem to be all over the place, so it could very well be that they've headed in that direction. So I believe the lions are heard on the dam cam, but no sign of the leopard as yet. So I think between everybody, they're not far, as leopards and lions are all kind of milling about around us at this stage, which is making life quite difficult. So I just want to chat to Rexon, because I see Rexon is coming out from there. How are you guys doing? And that maybe they've gone southwards rather than northwards from this pan. It's very possible. The pan is obviously the central point where they probably drank from. Then from there they could have gone east, west, north, south, and we're just trying to figure out which way. The other issue that there is there's just so many tracks, because there's male, female, and from yesterday's kind of back and forth movements, it makes it really tough to be able to actually kind of know which way they went for sure. Alright, let's try one more time around this way. I mean, there's lots and lots of people on foot at least. So Rexon's on foot, Herbie's on foot. It just seems as though there's, quite a few of the guys are actually just trying to check out what's going on in this area. And hopefully between all of us, we'll get it right. Let's try and just see if we can find any sign this side. Right, now while I double check this area and just go and head a little bit further south of where we are, just to see if they haven't crossed that way, let's send you back across to Sydney, who's inspecting some dung.
I've got a very nice track here of a fresh track of a leopard. So this now is to me a confirmation that the alarm call we heard earlier from the bushbucks, they were against the leopard passing by here. So things are happening in this area where I am. I'm hearing the lions. Here comes the fresh track of the leopard heading towards the southern side of the game reserve. So now the one which is very much fresh is this track, leopard track. I am going to try by all means now and follow this and see if we can find something. But that does not mean the trekking about the lions is over, because these lions, they are just roaring everywhere, and I'm not too sure how many they are. So maybe we might meet any of them as we are looking for this leopard at the moment. So let's go up this side and see if we can follow these tracks. I can see that this leopard went all the way up towards the pen. So the avoca, I haven't seen them for quite a long time as well. So not too sure if maybe they are by the northern side of the game reserve, or they are maybe towards the eastern side. I haven't seen for quite a long time the avoca, the coalition avoca. So here is where these leopards were just having a drink, and also this is where the buffaloes had a drink as well. Sorry for that. So I'm just trying to find those tracks again, just to see if we can follow them up this side, but it's showing that the direction of movement is going up this way. Nana, the plant which can be used in order to prevent what disease again? I am not too sure of that kind of a... So the bite from the insects, we can use the trees such as the sickle bush. The sickle bush is the one that we use in order to treat the bugs, the scorpion stings, all the insects bites. We use the sickle bush in order to treat those kind of problems, including the snake bites as well. So sickle bush is one of the trees I indicated when I started that it does have quite a lot of various ways to treat various diseases. Jane, I am not scared because I have been working in the bush for many years, and I was a head guide before who was doing responsibilities such as I was leading guided walks and game drives. I was also doing 4x4 trays. So approaching the animals is something I have been doing for many years. So that is why I am not scared of these animals at all, but I respect them. So now I do have some of the colleagues who are now trying to do some trekking. I can see Herbert from here where I am now. He is trying to check some of the treks going up, and I'm just trying to check if they are winning. I heard another alarm call again just from the western side. Things are happening here where I am because the animals are just complaining everywhere. So now let's go back to Tristan, who is trekking from the vehicle. Maybe because the vehicle can reach long distances, he might be following something.
Well, hopefully we'll find something, Sydney. We're still trying to look and to try and see. Sorry, the guys are talking loud in my ear. Trying to find any sign of these leopards where they've gone. The lions apparently are calling inside Buffelshoek because Taxon is following up on them. So we're not going to worry about them too much right now. We'll kind of have a look around for them a bit later. But from what I can gather is the last tracks for these leopards are coming south towards Quarantine. Now, where that means that they're going to end up, I'm not quite sure, but let's just double check. We're going to be quite far behind them now if they're walking quickly, because you know we've spent a large majority of our time driving around in circles around Gallagher Pan, and they could be quite far off already. So just want to double check that they aren't this side somewhere. We just check all the roads. I'm pretty sure they're going to head towards Zoe's area, so I'm going to jump onto Zoe's. I can actually see one of the vehicles there, so hopefully if we can get this right, it will be basically Zoe's junction around Philemon's is where we should hopefully bump into these leopards. That's the idea anyway, if we, like I say, all things go according to plan. Now poor Wendy has got no brakes at the moment, so I've got to be a bit careful about how fast I drive, because otherwise I'm going to get us taking off over one of these bumps. But here we go, should be fine there. Come on cats, where are you? Feels like one of those mornings where we're going to get teased by our kitties, and they're going to kind of be around, but they're not going to show themselves that easily. I'm not sure where else to go. Zoe's feels like the right place, but so Matt, you say the morning light is lovely. It is beautiful this morning. It's a crisp, clear winter morning, late winter morning, and there is this golden kind of light that comes down at this time of the year. That's amazing because of all the dust that's kicked up by the winds of August. You often get this kind of appearance that takes place, and you get this kind of light that comes through. It really is very, very nice to be out at this time of the day. It would just be that much better if we had any one of our animals, to be honest. It would be nice on ellies and buffalo and lions and leopards. It's flattering light for any of those creatures. So hopefully we'll find some of them, if not all of them. Wouldn't it be nice to see all of them? Now, Rexon has gone down this road. He was the one that had the last tracks heading south, so I'm going to go along Zoe's is where I'm going to head, in the hope that I'm going to pick up where these leopards went. I'm hoping these are the right tracks that we're on. You'd think between all of us we'll be able to find these leopards, but yet it seems as though very difficult. Now, I believe a lot of you are asking about what's happening with Jamie. Well, she's stuck. Unfortunately, her car has slid off the side of the road and is now wedged well and truly in the mud, which means that poor Jamie is busy doing a rescue mission and is trying to dig herself out of what's going on. Part of me is feeling very, very sorry for Jamie, but the other part kind of wishes it was Brent. Now, good news is that Sydney seems to have gotten the luck this morning and has found us a spotty cat.
Yes, I do have Hosanna at the moment. I managed to track down Hosanna, and he is now trying to go after the bushbucks. There are some bushbucks here, and they are making quite a lot of noise against Hosanna at the moment. So following the tracks, we managed to get hold of Hosanna. He's somewhere right here now. And his other animals are just running everywhere here where I am at the moment. So it seems like Hosanna is doing some hunting activities at the moment. He was right here. He just went down towards this drainage just now. So now we might see it very nicely from this side here. So now we can move further up this side. So he is definitely here. I saw him. He was just here now. Proud cat mama, the most common tree you can find here in South Africa. It is the guari bush. It's one of the trees that everywhere I go, I find them. Yes, also some other trees you can find them, but the guari bush to me is dominating the most. Hosanna just got disappeared somewhere here. It was a very good sighting. It was very short, but very fast. So he might be hiding somewhere here by this drainage line. Randa, that is very true. Hosanna is on a hunting mood. As when we got him, he was right stalking the bushbucks. He has just been spotted again somewhere not very far away from here where I am. So I'm just trying to check here to see if maybe we're going to have a chance to see Hosanna again as he just went down towards this side. But I can see that there's some other vehicles already on a sighting. There he is. Come and see. Come and see there. There. He's walking there. Can you see? Yeah, he's walking right straight there. Very slowly walking there. Can see that movement. He's heading towards the open space. Yeah, he just went up here now. I saw him. He's now starting to approach the clear open space. The lions are still roaring as well here in the very same area. I saw him going up right there. He's somewhere here. He's walking very much slow. So he just went up. He went past that vehicle to that side. He saw other vehicles from neighboring lodges here trying to have a sighting as well. So I'm sure Tristan might be seeing him on the other side. Cat, that is true. The camouflage is very much amazing. You cannot easily see a leopard. When the leopard is lying down flat, it's very much difficult to see. And which is something which is making it very difficult to see him from a long distance. He is matching the surrounding. Mr. Covey, here where we are, it is not windy at all. It's very much quiet, and the wind is on our favor as we did approach from the direction where that animal was coming from, and the wind was on our favor. And that is why it was very much close, and the bushbuck started calling, and we went to investigate the call, and that is how we found him. So the wind is on our favor. So this leopard is not very far away from here. It is right here. He just went down here. So I'm just going to try and move so that I can climb this obstacle a little bit to see if maybe I can have a visual from here. So he might be very much relaxed, hiding somewhere in between these bushes in front here. So while I am trying to check what's happening in this surrounding here, let's go to Tristan. Maybe Tristan has got a better visual where he is.
Well, we don't have a better visual, unfortunately, Sydney. He's right next to us, but he's in this nonsense inside here. It really is difficult to see him. There's a small little dip that he's milling around in, and so we basically can just see a spot moving every now and then. There you go, you can just see his spots between all of that thicket. It really is quite difficult. There he goes again. So I don't know where he actually wants to go. At least we're getting a good view. Hello, boy. You were giving us the run around this morning. He's now heading back to where he came from, and I think he's having a look around at something. Looks like he might even be stalking maybe a little scrub hare. No, this was a scrub hare that just ran away from him. There's also some nyalas that are very close to him. They're not far at all. I don't know if he's even seen them yet, but he's now lying down and having a little look. I'm going to just go back a little bit for you, folk, just so that we can try and get at least some semblance of a view of him. Let's try and head back this way. Right, now I'm going to try and head back, and while I do, I believe that Sydney can also see him from where he is.
Look at that. Now I managed to get a very better visual of Hosanna. You can see Hosanna is looking right at us, sitting there. This is beautiful. He's trying to listen to maybe trying to communicate with me at the moment. Not worried about anything. So this cat has been hunting this morning, so we just got him trying to hunt. We did not disturb the hunt at all, as we were invited by the animals who saw him already. Look at that. Thank you very, very much for all those kind of messages. We are so very happy to find him. Exciting like this on a guided walk is never easy. Look at that, very much relaxed, not worried by a nice and open area. I can see I can hear even some of the animals. The sounds like the buffaloes. I didn't copy that. If you can repeat FC. This is a beautiful visual of Hosanna on a guided walk. This is something very much rare, as we normally see sightings like this from a game drive. So now let's go back to Tristan, who is also by the very same sighting. What I'm going to do now is I'll be heading towards the pen, because I can hear some other animals sounding like buffaloes coming towards this direction, and lions still roaring behind them. Maybe we might see some other interesting things taking place there.
Well, be safe, Sydney. You don't want to get caught in between lions and buffalo. That's never an ideal place to be. So hopefully Sydney will be able to get himself into a safe place and then be able to spot something that's going on. But maybe those lions are hunting buffalo. It sounded like there were lots of oxpeckers just north on Mvubu. When I first went out, I could hear the oxpeckers calling, and then the lions kind of calling in that area could be an indicative sign that maybe the lions are trying to chase those buffaloes around. But so far it's difficult to know for sure whether or not they are there. Like I said, the guys kind of say that they can hear the lions sort of north of us. Now, you would have seen on the flare how much easier it is to spot Hosanna in these thickets than it is with normal. I mean, now we've got a bit of sunlight so you can see, but would this have been in the night time, we would have really struggled to have been able to actually see him. And so the flare really does help with just kind of isolating him out of his environment and being able to pick him up. But Hosanna must have been playing games with us this morning. He must have been right there, and we just kind of missed him. So our initial kind of plan to check Galago Pan was the right one. It just got a bit kind of complicated after a while, and I just wonder what female keeps coming around here. Maybe it's Tundi and Tlalamba that are hanging around, because their tracks are also absolutely everywhere in this area, and so I have a funny feeling that it is them. Now, we don't only have we've got one star, which is obviously Hosanna. He is really the star of the show, but the other star of the show is also sitting on my left-hand side at the moment. I've just spotted him from very close by. He's James R.A. Hendry, who's now going to try and escape our view. He's much like Hosanna. He's being elusive. He's gone back into his tent, so that's where James is. He was just standing right there at one point and has now decided to walk inside there, so probably because he doesn't want to disturb Hosanna in any way. But can you see him on the floor? Is he a warm figure inside the tent? No, we can't see anything either. So there he comes. There he comes. Hello, James. Good morning. There he is, waving to all of you. I don't know what it is. I keep spying on James in the tent, which is, I suppose, not ideal. But anyway, we have got 2 stars in one sighting. So there we go. This is a A-list sighting for Juma. We've got Hosanna, who has done everything during the TV shows, and well, James too. Now you can see it's not easy to see this cat anymore. He's really kind of dropped his head down. I think if I go forward for you, it might be a little bit better. It's like one little gap here that we've got. There we go. A little more. Now I don't have brakes, so it's difficult to actually get the exact spot. You kind of have to stand on the brakes in order to be able to actually get them. But there we go. You can see now he's going to go to sleep in the worst possible place. Hosanna, I think it's time you go back to your pan, buddy. Now, he doesn't look like he's up for much this morning. I suppose he's had a busy morning already. There's been leopards all around, and what interests me is that he was obviously found and seen this morning, and his tracks were all over, but James said he very clearly heard a leopard calling. Now, a leopard calling and him calling is an interesting thing, because I've yet to hear Hosana call, and so if it's him that is actually making noise both yesterday morning and this morning, that's a major step for him, and that's asking for trouble. So I don't know if maybe it's the female that's calling. It could be the Tandi that's maybe scent marking and calling and kind of in the area. It could also be, you know, Shadulu or Tingana, but we just haven't found tracks for either of them really close to where Hosana is to give that impression. Unless, of course, he just bumped into Tandi and Kalamba, and Tingana also came along and called, and that's why we kind of just found him here and the rest of the tracks look like they're going somewhere else. I don't know. It really is quite interesting to see. I wonder what went on in the last 2 nights, because there's just been leopard activity around Gallagher Pan like crazy. I wonder if there isn't a kill somewhere there that we've just kind of missed out in some way. So no, that's also a very variable question. You know, in females, generally we start to see them mating for the first time around 3.5 to 4 years old, and having their first litters. With males, it can be very variable. There's the white dam male down in the south of the Sabi Sands. He was mating at 3 years old, so he was very young, whereas most male leopards will only really start to mate at around 5, 6. That's when they kind of start getting their mating right. So anyway, from 3 to, you know, all the way up to the older leopards that get their territories much later. So somebody like Kukumuri, who's 5, 6 years old, he'll be able to, you know, he's just gotten secured a territory and will be mating now. So generally anywhere between there, so let's say 3 and 6 would be the average for a male. And then, like I say, females much earlier. They come into an estrus quite quickly. There's some females that will be much earlier too. So Karula had her first litter quite young, as far as I understand it. She was, I think, just close to 3 years old when she had her first one, which gives you an indication of how it just depends on the individual itself. Now, Hosana Kat, are you tired? I'm sure you're tired. You had another busy day yesterday. You had... Yes. Izanani, that's exactly what's happened, is that he's given us the runaround and then decided now to sleep, which is, I suppose, how it goes. I was hoping he'd be a little bit more active to move out of the section that we're in, because it really is a horrible area that makes it very difficult to be able to actually negotiate and to actually even get a clear view of him. So I was hoping that he was going to walk from here down towards the pan and kind of find himself a little spot down there to go and sit. He's obviously at the pan. It's much easier to actually watch him, and all of you get to watch him throughout the day. I'm sure he's going to end up there. I have no doubt at some point today we'll see Hosana milling about at the pan itself. But, you know, it would have been nice if he had just been a little more active this morning than what he currently is right now. So Greg, any time, it doesn't really matter for them. Mating is mating, and any chance they get, they will do it as much as they can and as often as they can. And so it doesn't matter if it's nighttime or daytime. It really kind of is irrelevant to them. They will, you know, it's such a short period that the females in estrus, that the male will go after her and they'll mate as much as they can. I mean, she'll force the male more than he'll force the issue. And so in the height of mating, it doesn't matter, like I say, if it's day or night, they'll just mate as much as they can to try and ensure that they get the female pregnant, or the female gets pregnant. It's interesting because you often find with younger males when they mate that for the first time that they actually don't produce cubs for a while. And Hukumuri is probably a good example of that, is he's just starting to come into a dominance and he's starting to mate, and we've seen him mating a lot with Shadulu and Tiani, yet neither of them seem to be pregnant at this stage. It will happen eventually. I don't think he's sterile. It's just quite common to see with young males that it takes a few kind of times and a few tries until they actually successfully are able to impregnate the females. Hosanna still looks at least alert. So, I mean, hopefully there's going to be something that's going to move, and that's going to kind of get him going and get him moving and doing his thing, and being able to actually try and kind of go hunt a little bit. There was, like I say, nyalas around, there was impalas about, so there's lots of different little animals that are moving in this area that should theoretically get his attention. We know he can't resist going hunting, and I suppose his favorite friend James is also here, so maybe he'll go visit James in the tent. It'll be quite funny if he walked up to the tent. I would have a good chuckle. I'm sure James wouldn't, but it would be quite interesting to see. Right, well, we'll keep sitting with Hosanna and see what he's up to and whether or not he's actually going to move for us. In the meantime, let's send you over to Sydney, who seems to have found something else now on walk.
I have got a very beautiful big head of the buffaloes. They are right coming here to the Galago pen. I can see them approaching from a distance in between the bushes. In less than 3 minutes, these buffaloes are going to be here at the waterhole. I told you earlier that things are happening here in this area. The lions has been roaring, the leopards are hunting. Those lions probably, they are after these buffaloes. It's quite a very big head. This is a breeding head. I can see, and I've been hearing also the small ones making noise here. Look at that. A very, very good morning and welcome to the beginning of our special broadcast. I am Sydney. I am here based at the western side of the Kruger National Park, the Djuma Game Reserve, next to Galago Pen. I have got a very big herd of buffaloes coming to the waterhole at the moment. This is one of the phenomenal sighting. I have never seen this before. Look at these buffaloes coming. Quite a very big herd. Big ones are right walking in front of the babies, and the females are following them. This is interesting. Look at that. They're trying to sniff in order to investigate about the surrounding. So I'm just gonna give them a space a little bit so that we can have a good sighting. We don't disturb them. Not that very scared, as you know, the animals, they don't consider us as a threat. If you look there now, you can see that it is about coming to drink water. So they are not coming here for any purpose. This is not the same, this might be the very same herd that we have been seeing a lot. So you can see now they have arrived at the waterhole and they are all starting to drink now. And none of them is having a problem with our presence. This is beautiful. Look at that. It's quite a lot. I can't even count the number here. Look at it. That is true. This is nature at the very best. Look at that. This is the biggest herd I have seen in Djuma. They might charge if they see us, but if they find that we are not threatening them, the chances of them just to drink there is very much high. So we're just giving them a chance. It has been a fantastic sighting, a big buffalo herd drinking. And thank you very much for your questions and comments. It is now the end of our action broadcast. So now let's go to Tristan. Tristan has got something very interesting on his side. I'm not too sure if he's here where I am or somewhere else.
Well, we're still sitting with Hosana, who's a sleepy cat. He's not really too kind of awake at the moment. He's just got his eyes kind of squinting because of the sun. And so I think he's slowly but surely kind of going to rest and nap in the warm winter light. The thing is that we just heard the lions calling again, and I just spoke to Tax, and he says those lions are actually calling from Manuleti. And so I think what's happened is that lion has, obviously whichever lion it was moving very quickly and was going northwards, and probably was close to our boundary at a pan called Tambuti Dam, which sits right up against our boundary, and it often sounds like they're on our side, but they're just north. I think he's gone straight north from there. It sounds like maybe it's one of the Avoca boys that's kind of moving in that direction. As for the Nkuhuma Pride, I'm not quite sure where they are at the moment, and maybe they're somewhere in that area too, and they were chasing those buffalo. I don't know. Considering that there are buffalo very close by, I'd be very surprised if the Nkuhumas were anywhere near this area and didn't pick them up and actually come and try and chase them. So it's interesting that we have a lion that's moving as quickly as it is away. It's definitely kind of obviously got to be in its bonnet that it needs to be somewhere quite quickly. Now, what we're going to do with Hosana is I probably am going to try and reposition at some point. I just was staying here now because when the lions roared, I just wanted to see whether or not that would wake him up and he would try and kind of start going somewhere. But we really don't have a good view at all, and so I'm going to try and see if I can try and figure out another way to get towards a better sort of spot, because otherwise we're going to stare at little spots resting in the grass as... Oh, Justin, I don't know, to be honest. How many hours have we watched Hosana sleep? Many. A lot. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, it's difficult to estimate these things. I would love to know, actually, how many hours we've spent with Hosana in his lifetime. And just whether it's been sleeping or playing or active or anything like that. It would be quite interesting to know. And I was also thinking about I wonder how many hours we've spent in total as a Wild Earth unit. So with all of our different presenters, how many hours we've spent with the leopard in total across the years. It must be quite an astronomical figure. It's probably more hours than people even realize. It's always one of these kind of interesting things that you kind of have, and you kind of think about it. And I often think about how many hours I've spent with these cats as well, and I suppose it's a lot. They add up pretty quickly, I would imagine. If you think that you do 6 hours a day, and let's say you do 200 days of work, which we do more than that, but let's just say hypothetically 200 days of work, that's 1,200 hours at the bare minimum, at least, that we spend every year out in the bush. And so, when you start to add those all up, you can very quickly kind of imagine that I would say that we probably got 2,000 hours at least with leopard over the course of the years. And in fact, I think that's being very conservative. You probably find it's even more than that, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. 2,000 documented hours of leopard's lives is pretty special. So very fortunate that we get to spend as much time as we do. Now he's looking around again. He's facing the right way because he's heading south, and that means that he might go up towards Quarantine where it opens out a little bit. Now it's going to snow and rain, and sleet and hail is going to fall from the sky because Jamie Patterson has got herself out of her situation, is the only way you can describe it, and is now back up and running. So let's go find out what happened.
I don't want to talk about it. I'm going to, though. I'm going to talk about it. I'm always the first to admit when it's my fault, and I was at least partly to blame. Mostly because I should have just held my ground with a vehicle that was coming the other way at high speed, and instead of creeping past each other, I just went out of his way and off the road. We definitely could have managed that better, both of us, but I employed a few choice words in his direction as he zoomed off, and I just slid into the side. And then we spent the rest of the morning digging, and Archie was incredibly helpful. Right, well, as fun as this update has been, there are far more exciting things happening on Djuma. They're not having to dig themselves out. In fact, Sydney is on foot with buffalo.
Look at this. This is so beautiful. This is quite a phenomenal sighting. Look at how many there are. Quite a lot of buffaloes now. They are drinking at the waterhole. This is an amazing guided walk. I can hear the lions are still roaring not far. Listen to that. You can hear the lions are roaring not far, and the buffaloes. I can hear the lions are also not very far away. Lions are after this head of buffalo, probably. Look at that. Very much inquisitive, but not worried about my presence. Look at the big males there, also just busy steering their head, and there's even a baby. So these animals can be able to carry their babies for a period of about 12 months. Linda, this is amazing. I've never seen something like this before. Look at that now. They're disturbed a little bit. I don't know what disturbed them. But the lions are not that very far from here where I am. So a sighting like this is not something that you find easy. It's not easy. But from the distance I'm calculating between them and the lions, I think the lions are not that very far. So we might see something interesting. Maybe lions are going to come while they're still here at the waterhole. As at the moment, they are very much stationary here. Sure, yes. No, buffaloes are not that very problematic animals, but they don't like surprises. Some of them are just playing here, whereas some of them are just looking at us. You can see they are together with the oxpeckers trying to clean them, giving them some morning clean. So they can make a very big noise. So I will be inviting some of the new viewers to a very special broadcast, as this is something which is very rare that I'm seeing here now. So we're going to go to a special broadcast in a very short while. A very, very good afternoon again, and welcome to the very special broadcast here in Djuma Game Reserve, the western side of the Greater Kruger National Park. I have got a lovely herd. My name is Sydney, and I am not alone on this lovely sighting, fabulous sighting. I am with Dave, who is my camera operator, enjoying this very beautiful sighting. This is not something that we are seeing every day. This is very much special, and it is the first time for me to see this kind of big head on a guided walk with the buffalo since I've arrived here in Djuma Game Reserve. Look, some of these animals, if you look at their bodies, they have got quite a lot of mud on them. Buffaloes are some of those animals that prefers to do what is called mud wallowing. When the sun is very hot, if there is some mud available, you will see them rolling in mud, just to absorb the mud in order to prevent the sunburn. Considering the color of this animal, you will see that they are very much dark, and the darker color always absorbs sun. Dina, indeed, this is amazing, and thank you very much for such a wonderful comment. I am really enjoying this sighting much as you are. Chris, the buffaloes, they are part of the ruminants. The ruminants is the animals which go out for feeding purposes, and when the sun is hot, this is what is going to happen shortly. When the sun is hot, they must have to identify a safety place where the whole herd is going to lie down, and as they're lying down, you'll hear them chewing and still moving their jaws. That is when they're doing a process which is called rumination, whereby they are taking the food that they have eaten before back to the mouth and chew some cud. So this is a ruminant. It does have a 4-chambered stomach. Kimberly, the buffaloes can be very much aggressive, especially when they are having the little ones, because they've got to protect their babies. Here I can see they do have the little ones, but they still have got a natural human fear. The big males, such as the Dhaka boys. Dhaka boys mostly are those solitary males that walk by themselves. Those are the ones that can be very much dangerous sometimes. So these big open spaces, they are drinking, and while some of them are enjoying the sun. Vogue, that is true. This is amazing. Unexpectedly, look at the number of buffaloes in this herd. This is quite a very big herd. This is phenomenal. I saw one trying to shovel up the oxpeckers. Look, sometimes oxpeckers, when this kind of animal got some small wounds, they try to get the meat. They don't only eat the ticks, they eat the ticks, the blood, and they try to tear and open the wounds. So this herd, I'm sure, is going to hide somewhere around here after drinking. I'm just not too sure how far the lions are, but I can guarantee you the lions are definitely after these buffaloes. Aaron, indeed, this is incredible. This is something I never saw before. Oh, some of them don't even have tails. You can see that they have escaped danger. You can see one there is now hidden by the Dhaka boy, doesn't have a tail. Yeah, somewhere behind that big bull which is rubbing against the trees. It is so sad for me to announce that this is going to be the end of my action broadcast. And thank you very, very much for your questions and comments. It was indeed a lovely sighting. Look at that, they're trying to investigate by all means my presence. But they're not worried anymore. I can see that at the beginning when they arrived, they were very much inquisitive, but now they're just standing there, very relaxed and basking the sun. You can hear them making some of the noise, very thick noises. The Dhaka boys. Dhaka is a name which means mud. If you go to the people who are the bricklayers, when they're mixing cement with sand, that mix is called a dak. And a Dhaka is a mud. Then these animals are considered Dhaka boys because they go to the mud wallows, and when they are rolling in mud, they end up picking up that mud. It's like saying a mud boy. A Dhaka boy is a mud boy. And look at those horns there. Sorry, the space within the horns there mostly can go even up to 2 meters. So the keratin, which is consisting this kind of horns, is very much strong. Unbelievable that this kind of horns can also get decomposed. Some of the insects that are called the horn borer insects can be able to decompose the keratin from the buffaloes and any other horny animal. Look at that. So sometimes if you come across the old horns, you will see them with quite a lot of protuberance. Those protuberance are as a result of those kind of insects in there, as they use their own droppings and build some tubes and hide in there while they're decomposing this keratin from the bones, and also protecting themselves against the predators as well as high temperatures. You can hear all the different kind of birds are showing us their activities. Some, the woodpeckers are knocking some of the dead wood, and some of the francolins are also giving some of the calls. So while I'm still here by this phenomenal sighting, Tristan, one of my colleagues, he does have Hosanna at the moment. So let's go and see how the cat, the little chief Hosanna, is doing. He's also not very far away from here, as this is around where we saw him earlier.
Well, the little chief is woken up, which is good news. So he's now awake and looking around and kind of staring and sniffing and smelling and doing his thing, just generally being Hosanna. He's quite kind of curious as to what's going on. He's stalking around as though there's something here. I think maybe there might be a scrub here that's lying down somewhere in this little thicket. And he keeps kind of looking down into the drainage. Now, what have you just pounced on, Hosanna? Did you just find yourself a branch? Now, he does love himself a branch. Now, where he's going, he's about to just walk straight into James. It's quite funny because where he is there, James is just up ahead of him, and he's walking slowly towards where James is. You can just see James on top of the hill there, not far from where we are. It's just in front. So if he crosses this little drainage section, which he's doing, he's going to be kind of in the same shot as James. So I think we'll just sit here and wait, because it'll be quite nice if we could get the two of them in one shot. I think James would be very, very happy if I did get him in one shot with Hosanna. James always loves spending time with Hosanna, and it's quite funny to think how often this must happen, where a leopard is kind of watching somebody and you just don't even know he is there. It's one of those funny kind of things that you can see in the top left corner. James is busy doing some training at the moment, so we have someone on an internship, and James is busy helping them out, just trying to get them to learn about presenting or guiding and presenting at the same time, and so doing some work up there. But there you can see James lounging on his chair like the boss, and Hosanna watching him, which is pretty cool. So there we go, there the two of them are. It's James sitting on the left, and that's Ollie on the right, who's, like I say, is here to try and learn a little bit, and is doing a presentation for James this morning, I believe, on fungus growing termites, which is quite interesting. And Hosanna obviously finds this all very interesting, because he's coming and kind of listening to the speech as well, which is quite cool. So James just got up and moved now, which is quite funny. So we'll see. I can see Hosanna is watching and listening very intently. He's obviously very curious as to what's actually going on at the moment, and is quite keen to just kind of see what these guys are up to. He's not in any way a real major threat at this stage, because he's kind of just milling about. But there he goes. He's going forward slowly. Yvette, you say you really think Hosanna knows and likes James? Yes, it seems like he often is looking around for James as well, so it's really, really quite cool to see him going about his business. He's such a funny cat, this. Often around the camp, and seems to be quite curious, as long as it's on his own terms. He's a bit shy these days if you try and track him and try and kind of follow him as he's walking. But I think if he sees you and he wants to make his own kind of mind up as to whether or not he wants to approach, it's a little different with him. It's quite interesting to see how he goes about it. Now I'm just going to try and go a little bit forward just to see if we can see him. Right, now while I edge forward and just see where little Hosanna is and what he's up to, let's send you back across to Jamie, who is, I believe, looking at a predator of her own, but not one that roams around on the ground. It prefers the skies.
Jamie with the remains of a wildebeest carcass and some vultures making it their normal racket. And now that I've mentioned that, they're going to go quiet. But let me see if I can give you an opportunity to listen, because it's such a prehistoric sound. It's that one Rupels on the left there that's making the calls. Sound effects worthy of Jurassic Park. They're not as vocal as they might normally have been, nor as frantic, because there's so much food to go around, and this wildebeest is almost done. Hey! Here you go, an example of hierarchy at work. It looked like the Rupels chasing a young Rupels. I'm not sure it was a whiteback, it was a young Rupels. Out of the way. Really getting in to the last bits. They've almost picked this carcass entirely clean. They're such essential animals to the survival of this ecosystem. Disposing of disease-causing carcasses, making sure that they don't scatter the plains. It's very, very important what they do. Even if they're not the most beautiful of birds, they're designed very specifically for what they do, so that their heads don't get covered in the gore and muck. And they're actually quite clean animals. They will go and then bathe after they've finished feeding. And of course, unbelievably resistant to diseases. But this is such a nice opportunity for some really close-up views. Arvid, you didn't know that vultures, or that these vultures make that noise? They do indeed. There's very little similarity. How are you? There's very little difference, sorry, is what I was trying to say, between the calls of the various species of vulture. Sorry, become a thoroughfare and I've blocked up the road. That is very macabre. That poor wildebeest looks like it's smiling, but it is of course not smiling. They make these distinctly dinosaur-like shrieks. I suppose, I mean, I say dinosaur-like shrieks as if we... That's actually very true. Faith has pointed out there's another animal that makes a very similar sound, and that is a hungry hyena cub, making its begging call, called swittering. There is actually a great similarity. I'm just going to wait for this procession to move past us. Oh, I would slow down. Never mind. MK says that these are the infamous dental vultures, although they seem to have abandoned the mouth of the wildebeest. I'm not sure they're a dentist that I would let anywhere near my teeth, but you raise a very good point. They've certainly done a fine job of cleaning off the rest of the wildebeest. It is in pristine shape, except for the fact that it's dead in a skeleton. Cal 6, at this point, no. The noise will not... Sometimes hyenas are attracted to the sound of feeding vultures. It could potentially attract them, but I've just set Siri off. Please hold on one moment while I turn her off. What? Okay, would you like to hear what Siri has come up with? Stop talking. How do I make it turn off? I'm so sorry. Cool, sponsoring the way for this position to be passed us a case is the Beezer, the infamous dental vultures. Although they seem to have a bad did, the And then they have Siri's very kindly searched for the man at the infamous England dentist chair party reveals all. Oh, now I'm curious. There's a pretty little... Siri is ridiculous. Here we go. Let me show you. There we go. Cool, cool. Sponsoring the way for this position to be past us as a case. I don't know. We do strange, strange ways that our day takes us. Siri, be quiet. I don't even know why you're on. You really didn't need that contribution. Siri obviously really feels that she needs to be part of this drive. Oh, look at these vultures. Having a brief scrap. We've got the lappet-faced in. The biggest species of vulture out here. And you can really see the difference when you compare them to the rupels. And the rupels is not a small bird. But they are probably about a third bigger in terms of size. Absolutely massive. And you definitely don't want to fall foul, haha, of that beak. Definitely not the most attractive looking creatures, but they're built entirely for their purpose, and we don't often get to get this close-up view. And interestingly, something I learned in the Mara, which I never knew, is that lappet-faced vultures nest on gardenias. Now, Karen, you want to know, I think, if I understood this correctly, which animal will eat the teeth of the wildebeest. Hyenas will chew on them, but they don't get much in the way of nutrients from them, so they might chew them. They might even eat some of the small pieces of teeth, but largely they will be left to slowly but surely break down. There are certain things like tortoises that will come and bite off pieces of the teeth, as well as snails. Oh my goodness, please don't crash into me. Jeepers. That was so close. Sorry. I'm not actually allowed to make too much of an emphasize that, but that was millimeters away in wet mud. Look at this vulture drying itself off while I recover my temperament. It is cold. That's exactly what I feel like doing. How cool is that? Nice stretch out of the wings, grooming those feathers. Beautiful. Beautiful in their own ways. There's a lappet face presiding over everything. It's really nice to have vultures back again in the Mara. We've spent a long time without them. And when they fly, for those of you that have never experienced it, when they fly over you, you just hear, oh, cool. You just hear whomp, 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 whomp. The sound of their massive wings. So if that lappet-faced vulture, if I were to stretch out my arms, I'm admittedly not the largest person in the world, nor the tallest, but even if Archie, who is definitely far taller than me, were to stretch out his arms, he probably, from fingertip to fingertip, still wouldn't equal the wingspan of the lappet-faced vulture. They are enormous birds. And that's why they're very gangly in the way that they move. And very sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Quite, they're not graceful. Let's put it that way when they're on the ground. But when they manage to take off and find themselves a thermal, their wingspan helps them be incredibly energy efficient because they just ride the air currents. Jeremiah, we've got a few faces here that only a mother could love. The combination of the lappet-faced vulture with those folds of pinkish turkey-like skin on the top of its head. You're right, they're not beautiful. Doesn't make them any less awe-inspiring, of course, or any less important, or any less valuable. But yeah, it would take a serious enthusiast to call that animal beautiful. Oh, marabou got lucky there. Now, for those of you that are new and not familiar with these birds, we seem to be having a bird-filled Mara drive. That is a marabou stork, not to be confused with a Malibu stork, which is a variant of a drink. A marabou stork. Beautiful, aren't they? Known as the undertakers of the stork world. They have these white-coated legs because they defecate on their legs, part of their thermoregulation process. There you go. So that's actually from the uric acid, because of course birds don't urinate. Oh, pecking at the vulture, that's amazing. I'm not quite sure I understood that, Faith. Sorry, it was a comment from Shauna about the meat, but I didn't fully grasp what the comment was. I apologize. Oh, there we go, the dentist at work. Dentist from a horror movie. Ah. Oh, Shauna wants to know who left the meat behind, or who's it. You know, it might not even necessarily have been a predator. In the migration there, wildebeest die often from injuries. It could have slipped in the mud. We saw recently, Brent and myself and Jean-Ray and Viam, we saw the strangest kill we've ever seen in our lives. The lions chased zebra, but they were half-heartedly. They were never going to catch them. And then a zebra slipped and fell in a hole, and it stood up and then went rigid and fell over. It must have broken its neck. So it does happen in these big herds. They panic. But it could also be lions. Lions are known to go on killing sprees during the migration, often completely abandoning the carcasses, which seems wasteful, but then you return and you see the vultures all feeding on them. So it isn't that wasteful. It's such a small minority, but the numbers are so large that it seems as though the place is strewn with carcasses once the wildebeest walk past. So as our beggars at the feast hop forward, Sydney is demonstrating his bravery in the bush with some buffalo.
I am still here with a very big herd of the buffaloes. They're still enjoying themselves. They're enjoying the sun. They're enjoying the water. Things are just happening here, and still hearing some of the lions making noise, trying to display their presence in the area. So everything that is happening here so far is interesting. This is a magical sighting. So a group like this there is no territorial male here. It's led by the pathfinders. So pathfinders are those very big males you will find walking in front every time in order to protect the whole herd. And if you can check, those pathfinders, they always look in a very good condition because it's the ones who got access to the nutritious grass first. That's a good strategy. Diana, I can agree with you on that. Yes, the probabilities are very high that Hosanna knows at the moment, long already, that these buffaloes are somewhere nearby. Remember, these kind of animals, they don't smell like we do. Animals, they can be able to pick up the air particles, and they take that information and transfer it to the roof of the mouth, where they've got a very special organ. It's called the vomeronasal organ. They also call it a Jacobson organ. And they must then transfer that information to the olfactory nerve. olfactory nerve is like a thin tube which is connected to the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus is then a brain which is responsible to inform the animal about what is happening in the surrounding. And this is the very same method animals are using in order to detect ostrich. So you can see that animals can be able to judge very well what is happening in the surrounding just from the air particles. Amazing. So, but Hosanna, I don't think he's going to come back here now. He must have to now keep a distance. Buffaloes can be very much protective and can even be very dangerous to big predators such as the lions. Lions, they walk in prize but can be killed by these kind of animals. They can fight. And also fightings amongst themselves in a group like this, they are normal. So that's why if you look there, they have got very big necks, thick neck. That thick neck helps them to protect themselves when they are fighting. So now the buffaloes seems to be heading slowly towards the direction where Hosanna is at the moment. But some of them are feeding. Maybe they're going to wake him up. Let's go to Tristan and see Hosanna before he is disturbed by the buffaloes.
Well, Hosanna is at this stage not fazed at all by being disturbed by anything. He really is taking it very, very easy. He's a flat kitty in the grass. He's found himself a perfect little day nap spot. It's quite thick, it's dense, lots and lots of grass there, a little bit of shade, and he can listen to James' ramblings as he kind of lulls himself to sleep, as well as, I suppose, we also rambling next to him as well. But he's found himself a good spot. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave him here. We're going to let him carry on with his sleeping morning, and we're going to go and try and see if we can find this lion that's been calling. It sounds like, from what I gather, is that the Nkahuma Pride were here and they went north, and maybe, just maybe, the evokers stole a buffalo from them. We're going to go just scratch around and see if we can get any sign of them and see what kind of comes of it. That's the kind of plan, at least. So I think Hosanna is not going to do too much, and even if the buffalo come here, I don't think the buffalo will walk in this section. The buffalo generally, if they cross from Gallagher, they tend to head up on the power lines a little bit further to the kind of west of where we are now. Thank you, Hosanna. Always a pleasure to see you. We'll see you later. I'm sure we'll be out looking for him later. Keep an eye on the dam cam today, because I'm pretty sure he might make his way there at some point. Now, I'm going to try and just sneak through this little gap, and so while I do that, let's send you back across to Sydney, who's, well, trailing the buffalo much like a lion would.
I have got the spotted hyena has just arrived. I can see he's trying to avoid the big head of the buffaloes right at the back. I can see him now disappearing somewhere at the back. It's not very clear to see him where I am at the moment, but he has just arrived here. Maybe he was also looking for some water, but he decided to avoid this big head of buffaloes. I can see one buffalo at the back is trying to chase that hyena. Sarah, the buffaloes in Venda, we've got a saying in Venda which is like arigeninari risina mbya, which means it's like you cannot come and try a buffalo head without dogs. In other words, this interpretation of this saying is that you don't come and start something when not having the facts. The buffaloes are considered very dangerous animals, and if you want to try them, you must have to be well organized. So that is what the saying is saying. So if they tell you Arigeninari Resnambia, it means they are saying you don't try the buffaloes without proper protection. So in other words, you don't come and start a conversation while not having facts to support your argument. Bronik, the chances of the hyenas to attack the buffaloes are very, very, very much low, unless it's a little one which is just by herself, which is very much rare. Yes, they can try to do that if this kind of a herd now get disturbed by the lions and decide to run away and outrun the babies. Chances of the hyenas to take down the abandoned babies are very much high. So it's only under those kind of circumstances. But for the hyenas to come and confront a big herd like this can be very much potentially dangerous. Proud cat mama. These animals has got a very big body size. They can weigh up to 800 kilograms to a ton. But I can promise you, these animals can run for approximately 54 kilometers per hour. And if you convert that into seconds, it's approximately 13 point something meters per second, full speed. That is too fast. Look at those horns when he's looking at this. So the males, the horns are joined. Males have got balls, and the females, you can see the gap in between the horns. And the color as well, males are much more darker, whereas the females are much more reddish brown. Greg, the buffaloes, mostly what I have seen is that the mother themselves, they take care of their little ones. I haven't seen a behavior on buffaloes like the elephants, whereby if the mother dies, any other lactating mother can take over and nurse the little ones. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It's just that when it comes to that, I haven't observed that. Not too sure if they can also be able to nurse the little ones from the other individuals. But the animals, they can be very much social, and during those kind of crises, they try by all means to help each other. Calfix, approximately 60, 70 buffaloes here by this herd. This is quite a very big herd. And when they are walking in a big herd like this, also can be dangerous for the lions, because these animals, they can collectively charge against any intruder. So now let's go to the Masai Mara. Jamie is driving around there and see what is happening at the moment. I will be now looking for the lions in the area.
It's fascinating watching the movements of the wildebeest. I get that they follow the rain. It has rained everywhere, and 500,000 wildebeest have moved completely out of where they were yesterday after being there for about 3 days. I get it. Obviously there's been sort of utilization of the grasses there. There's a large number of them, so it makes sense for them to move. But how and when they decide to do so, now all of a sudden we've got this enormous split. Half of them have come this way, the rest have gone to Serena, to the main crossings. But just look at this. It's so hard to... It really is. It's so difficult to give a real impression as to numbers. But there's just this massive body of animals marching south. I guess once one goes, they all go. Straight into sausage tree male territory. Kipuli and his boys probably had a feast last night. Those are all wildebeest in the background as well. Those are not trees or bushes. Those are wildebeest. I mean, obviously some of them are trees and bushes. The tree-shaped ones. Ah, James, my favorite sounds of the Mara. I think I even mentioned creating a soundtrack of the Mara. The first track being their murr, 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 murr. I wouldn't say that's one of my favorite sounds, but it is a sound that I enjoy hearing, at least before the novelty wears off. I like the sound of the freckled nightjar that lives close to our camp and goes bow wow, bow wow, bow wow at night. I like the sound of the rufous-naped lark, although it does get a bit repetitive. I like the sound of the jackals calling, which we sometimes hear. And of course the hyenas whooping, because, you know, it's the hyenas, and they make those amazing sounds. Lions roaring, I mean, some of them, there'll be a natural crossover. But in terms of sounds that you don't really hear on Djuma, definitely the wildebeest, definitely the freckled nightjar. You could hear the freckled nightjar on Djuma, but it's... I'll play the call for you in a second once I've passed this myriad. Imagine if I went off here, which is basically what I did earlier, but not quite as steep. I'm just stopping and going to say hello quickly. Morning, how are you? Good, thanks. We are live, just to let you know. Cool. I've had a morning. Very unsuccessful one. Cool. I'm going to be heading back that side shortly. Cool. Yeah, we'll give you a shout. Cheers. Now I've coated them all in smoke. Hi, how are you? I love high season, I do, I promise. Oh my word, these wildebeest, this is crazy. It's like a tidal wave of them just moved along here. I'm just trying to go find us a nice place where we can go and look. Because I wouldn't be surprised if the boys are somewhere around here. No, Jojo. I don't like the call of the hyrax. I appreciate that it is a sound of nature and that I am very grateful to be living in nature. I'm very grateful to be... Sorry, lady. She wound down her window to talk to me. I'm very grateful to be living in nature. However, the sound of someone in terrible distress and panic, the screech of the hyrax, it honestly sounds like someone in deep distress, possibly the victim of a serial killer. And when you first hear it, it is very disconcerting. Once you've got used to it, it is disconcerting for other reasons, because it is constant. Ah! Ah! I can't even do it properly. Unfortunately, that's one I can't play for you. I'm going to stop so you can look at this wave of wildebeest. I'm going to block up the whole road. Take our lives into my hands. In doing so, I'll find you the call of the nightjar. The rufous-naped lark, I think you're all familiar with. I might even be able to find you one in real life rather than playing you a call. Come on, Siri, you've been so helpful up until now. Why haven't you helped me with this? I can hear a rufous-naped lark, but the wind is starting to howl. Right. There is a freckled nightjar. This is what it sounds like. Sounds like one of those little robot toy dogs that were fashionable back in the 90s. You know, the ones that did a little bow and all of that? That's what it sounds like. Oh, these wildebeest, look at them go. I want to... not someone who harps on about time lapses, but my goodness, this would be an amazing time lapse. wildebeest river. It's really hard to fully capture. Crazy. Okay. Now I really am blocking up the road, so I'll move slightly. Oh, and the crowned cranes. I like the sound of the crowned cranes. Speaking of sounds that I like, I think the crowned cranes have this hilarious call, which I will play for you shortly. Oh dear, no I won't, because there's someone behind me. Yeah, I'll play it as I move. Oh, let's not slide off. Let's not slide off. John, yes, there is a difference between a heron and a crane. I'll tell you both. Okay, so there's certain similarities, so definitely, in that one's got very long legs and one also has very long, skinny legs. So there's certain similarities. A heron will have big, sharp, pointed bill that it uses for catching fish and frogs, and it's quite a stocky bill, so it's a very powerful looking bill. A crane is tall and slender, but it doesn't have that same powerful beak. Now a stork is kind of like a big heron. A stork is a big version of a heron. It's a stretched out version of a heron. Yes, there's some other differences, but that it is in essence. But if you look at a crane, I mean that's a grey crowned crane. I was playing the call, so I'll carry on playing it. I quite like that sound. And if you compare them to those herons that we saw earlier, okay, you can stop now. Compare them to the herons that we saw earlier, you'll see there's a massive difference with the bill shape. Whereas storks, like the marabou stork, kind of like that extended version, sort of extended species, if that makes sense. They look bigger. They look similar in shape to herons, but bigger. So those are the differences. And cranes tend to be quite, as you can tell from the crowned crane, quite elaborate birds. Oh, this river of wildebeest just keeps flowing. I'm going to just go off the road, which I feel might have been a better idea from the beginning. Except, once I go off this road, I may never come back on again. Oh. Okay, one quick last look at the river of wildebeest making its way along the great Masai Mara, and then we can jump on board with Tristan to find out what he's been up to.
Well, what we've been up to is we've been looking around for any signs of these lions, Jamie, so I'm just trying to have a little scan here. I thought I saw a track, but of course now a car has just come past me and absolutely obliterated what was on the road here. So I'm pretty sure that my poor tracking skills are going to be put to the test again, and it's not like they've been doing very well the last few days, so I'll have to try and check this out. But yes, it looks like a lioness or lion that walked here. So you can see a track goes just off on this side. I'll try and show you a little bit better now. Just give me 2 seconds to actually get myself around. And it looks like more than one lion. It looks like most of the pride actually that was here. So let's have a little look. You can see the track quite clearly on the road going into Djuma itself. I didn't find anything coming past Sandy Patch, so I wonder if they're not on Aubrey's Road somewhere. I'll go and have a little scratch around there and just double check. It seems as though there's been quite a lot of movement with the lions during the course of the night. There must have been a lot kind of chasing going on, because lots of roaring this morning, and it sounds like the evokers have been involved in most of it. So we'll just double check where they go. It looks like they walked and then they turned and kind of went in here. So let's go check Aubrey's Road, see what's happening. Now I know Jamie was discussing favourite sounds in the Mara, and I've got to agree with her on the cranes. I quite like the cranes. It's an odd sound, but it's very, very pleasant, and it's kind of when you drive around, it's this sort of soft, low call that you hear where you go, and I quite enjoy that. So I really enjoyed the cranes up that side, and there's various other sounds that you hear. The nightjar, as Jamie spoke about, was also very, very cool to hear. There's also giraffe tracks in this area with the lion tracks, so I just want to double check. Buffalo tracks around here too, so I wonder if these lions didn't pick up the buffalo track here and then follow it. But here also the rufous-naped larks, the yellow-throated longclaw is another bird that was very, very common in that area, that you heard a lot. Well, when I was there, when it was raining, they were calling quite a bit. Now let's see if these lion tracks pop out on this fire break area and where they head from here. So nothing that I can see at this stage. They should be on this section. So Chris, unfortunately not. No oryx in this area. They are more an arid, dry area animal, and I know it looks very dry at the moment, but this gets quite wet in the summer months. So I'm afraid we don't, unfortunately, see the oryx here, which is a bit of a shame. I quite like them. I think they're a beautiful, beautiful animal, and very, very cool to watch, and they've got a lot of things about them that is quite unique in terms of their survival and the way that they do things, and that's why they can survive so effectively in places like the desert, as opposed to, you know, a lot of the other antelope in this area. So, you know, we don't see them, unfortunately, but they do occur in South Africa. You find them in the northwest parts of South Africa, where they spend a lot of time in the Kalahari Desert and those kind of areas. Now, we should be seeing these tracks coming out. How is this possible that they haven't come back out onto our side? I don't see a single track for these lions on this road, which is somehow not really possible. Wait, hang on, what's this? No, that's not them. So we've gone too far from where those tracks turned. They should have already come onto the road here, and I find it very strange, unless these lions just came on, sniffed about and went back north again. Nope, nothing here, nothing here. This is all just impala tracks. Very interesting. I didn't see any tracks going north. Everything looked like it was coming south onto our side. No, we're very definitely too far now from where I've... Right, now it sounds like... No, nothing here. Right, let's go... Let's try and just turn around here and go and check back behind us and see if there's anything. Now, Chris, you're saying how cold is it? You see us all bundled up. It's fairly chilly this morning. It was 10 degrees when we started. I don't know what it is now. 10 degrees Celsius, so that's, what, 50 Fahrenheit? Here they went back here. Okay, so I found their track now, milling about here. There's buffalo tracks. There they go. So they're going this direction. I didn't see anything on this open clearing fire break, so it looks like they've gone maybe towards Sydney's Dam. I did see a few cars on the other side of Sydney's Dam wall. I couldn't see what they were looking at, but I saw them. Interesting. Well, they're not here on this open clearing, I can tell you that much. And so they must have gone to Sydney's Dam and crossed over. But definitely the tracks are now pointing back towards the boundary, but I didn't notice them crossing north. Let's just double check once again. I apologize if we get any gremlins. I know sometimes this area can sometimes produce a few, so I do apologize if we have any of those. Now, Faith, did I say what temperature it is now? I don't know. I was busy talking and I don't know. $16 So you see there's cars there, but it looks like people just having a meeting on that side. It doesn't look like there's any lions there. So that's not them. Definitely no tracks that I can see going out here. It's a bit of a strange one. Now Rexon is busy calling me as well. Right, I'm going to just double check here, see exactly what happened, and while I do that, let's send you back across to Sydney with the Impala.
Look at that. This morning is a very lovely morning for the big heads of different species. Now, I got another big head of the impalas after the big head of the buffaloes. So you can see that the impalas right here, they are very much relaxed. But a lot of them already left as it was a big group, so they picked up my presence and decided to go towards the eastern side of the game reserve. So impalas are some of the very much interesting animals, as they have got quite a lot of adaptabilities in order to survive in the environment. So these animals, if you look at them, they've got large ears. And what I like the most about them is their pupil. The pupil of the impalas is larger than the sock. And when the pupil is larger than sock, it means these animals can be able to see very well. And they can see something in front and something at the back without even moving their head. So look at that body coloring. So the body coloring helps them, because if you can check, I want to show you something here. If you can check, when the animal is feeding, it's feeding like this. And the sun is burning the ground. And when the sun is burning the ground, the soil absorbs more radiant energy. And when these animals are feeding, these animals can be able to absorb the heat from the ground. And this heat from the ground, when it gets absorbed, then this color here on the bottom by the stomach, they help in order to reflect the heat. Whereas the other type of colors on the side of the body is much more light brown, which is also there in order to balance the heat. This one on top helps to absorb. So these kind of hairs they have got some hairs which are there as well to protect them during the cold weather. When there's cold weather, they are going to raise their hairs, and you're going to see that now this animal, the hairs looks like a blanket. So it's one of the animals that can be able to communicate below the predator's hearing. Hosanna cannot hear the impalas talking. Anna, my favorite antelope is the one we are seeing now. Look at that, the impalas. Impalas, I always take them very serious. Look at that. This is beautiful. So this kind of animals can be able to communicate nicely without the... Look at that. So now let's go to Tristan and see what's happening.
Well, as chaos has erupted, so we just had Tingana come bursting past us, and in front of us is what looks like one of the Nkahuma lionesses that's chasing him. So it's Amber Eyes that's busy chasing Tingana. He's just off to our right-hand side, and she's kind of trotting after him. So he's trying to get out of here as quick as possible, I would imagine. But it's definitely Tingana that's being chased by her. So I'm just going to try and get around her. We just saw him go over the fire break, and then her kind of running behind him, coming from Buffalo's Hook area. So it's pretty insane to think that they're busy chasing each other. I want to try and see if we can catch up with where Tingana is. Sounds like he's kind of running away from her. I don't know if she is chasing him because she kind of found him initially, or if maybe she's looking for the rest of the pride. I see tracks for the rest of them all over the place here, so I think the whole pride was in this area, and Amber Eyes, in maybe trying to find the rest of the pride, is bumped into Tingana, who was probably the leopard that was calling this morning, given that we're straight north of where Hosanna is. And this is all now going to go towards where the buffalo are. So I'm going to get around her quickly. I want to just try and see if I can get to where Tingana is, so we can get a brief kind of glimpse of him. I'm pretty sure he's going to be hightailing it out of here as much as he can at the moment. But let's see, I can see Rex is way into the block already. So let's just try and get ahead where Rex is. So now it sounds like, I don't know what's going on. There's just, guys are giving updates of animals all over the place. It sounds like, let's see, it sounds like maybe there's more lions here. Now poor Tingana seems like he's run into between all of them. I don't know where he is. I think he's crossed back north by the sounds of it, so I'm just trying to work out what exactly is going on, because everyone's just firing off updates about different lions, different leopard. So let's just double check quickly. Now so it sounds like Tingana's run back towards Buffalo's cut line and has gone up a big termite mound. Now let's see. Jay, you say Tingana needs some big trees. I think he needs more than that. He's kind of got himself in between everybody here, which is not ideal for him. The thing is there are lots and lots and lots of trees here for him. So there's the Nkahuma Pride is here on our right hand side. Whew, it's all happening. So the whole pride is here, and he ran into the whole pride with Amber Eyes behind him, so he's made a very lucky escape to get out amongst all of this, because really to run in, that's crazy. But there's the whole pride just kind of sitting here looking around at the moment. Yvette, because a leopard is not something a lion likes at all. Leopards are another predator, which means that they're competition for both food and security of cubs, and so a lion will try and dominate a leopard at any chance that it can to be able to try and kind of asserts itself as the dominant individual. There comes Amber Eyes now, so she's on her way in. I just want to try and reposition slightly so that we've got a better view of these guys. So I don't know where Tingana's gone. By the sounds of it, he's on a termite mound somewhere. I can see, there he is. He's in the tree. He's in the tree. So he's coming down the tree. Amber Eyes put him up into a tree, so he's coming down now. There he is. You see him, Ferg? Oh, he's coming down. That's going to be him gone, I'm afraid. So he's gone down the tree now, so that's him, I'm afraid. We won't catch up with him again now. It's just obviously got pushed up by Amber Eyes, and he's going to make the hastiest of retreats as he tries to get out of this area and make sure that he's not followed by lions. But the lions are coming. They all are looking in this direction, so just trying to get around. Come on, get through, Wendy. So the whole pride is coming in this way. Mary, yes, the old man can still run when he needs to. Shame, he must have got proper panic when he ran into another 10 lions. So this is absolutely insane. We've got one leopard, we then had another leopard, and now we've got the whole Nkahuma pride also in this area. And Amber Eyes has not given up on trying to chase Tingana. It looks like they're going to be heading in that direction as well. This is insane though. It doesn't look like the whole pride is here, so the tracks that we followed, maybe that's a split off where a male kind of got involved and ended up chasing them to some degree. But this is just pandemonium that's happening. Now there's 2 cars that are with Tingana, and I'm not going to head in that direction. I know we want to see Tingana, but I'm just going to leave it, because otherwise we're going to have too many people in one place. In fact, I think he might be in the tree. Let's just have a look here, just if I go back for you, Ferg. Hold on. Just check in that big tall tree that's got a lot of foliage on it. So the big jackalberry, just straight there on the top right. Yes, there he is. So there's Tingana high up in the boughs of a tree. Now, these lions, even if they want to climb, will never get up to there. So we've got Tingana that side, we've got lions spread out all around us. It's just absolute chaos that is erupted out of nowhere. So we're busy tracking these lions. And, you know, all of a sudden, everything just started to kind of unfold in front of us, which is always the best way to be able to do this. So, poor Tingana, you're having a bad morning, my boy. So, Tom, you say this is unreal. It is unreal, isn't it? It's pretty impressive to kind of see this. It's not very often that you're going to see 11 lions and a leopard in the same sighting. Now, I don't know if it's 11 lions. I'm assuming that most of the pride is here. I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's at least 9 of them that I can see, maybe, but it looks like most of them are here. They're kind of all spread out a little bit. So it's actually not Amber Eyes that is further down towards Tingana. Amber Eyes is actually just on my right-hand side now. It looks like one of the other lionesses that's headed there. But Tingana's gotten himself into a good tree. He's nice and high up, nice and kind of camouflaged up there, so he'll be okay. He's a clever boy. I'm pretty sure it's not the first time he's run into lions, and so he'll easily be able to kind of outsmart them, I think, at this stage. You never know, because lions sometimes can get a bee in their bonnet, and then they start to kind of go up into trees and start to try and really kind of look around and try and get up there, and these sub-adults might be able to actually get to where he is. But at this stage, it seems as though the lions are just going to investigate Tingana up in the tree, and we're going to have a sort of stalemate for now. Poor Tingana also is going to have nowhere to sit in that tree. That tree is not ideal for him to rest. He's going to have to stand there until the lions get bored and pass out, and then he can scamper down and run away. Right, now, while we see what's going to happen here and see whether or not the Nkumas decide to actually actively go looking for Tingana, let's send you back across to Jamie up in the Mara, who's had a bit of luck of her own and has found a big male lion.
Last minute cats are the order of the day, because look what we've got. Admittedly not being quite as sort of edge of your seat stuff as Tristan's lion leopard combination, but we have Kipuli, who has decided to put his head down. He was looking up so beautifully into the morning light. It was such a stunning shot. And now, because you're here, he's decided to go to sleep again, because that's just how the universe is working. Oh, he's up, he's up. Watch now, I'll say that, and he'll put his head down again. Hello, boy. There we go. The male of this, I guess they need a name. We've sort of been calling them the sausage tree males, or the sausage tree pride males. They really need a name for their coalition. It seems so odd, and Tristan will relate to this, that just a few months ago we were questioning him whether or not he was going to form an alliance with those two sausage tree youngsters. And now that question has been totally answered for us, in that yes, he has. I don't know where his other two coalition mates are. Probably somewhere around here, because Brent had all 3 of them in this area yesterday. So they're around here somewhere. Possibly tucked away on the other side of those rocks. Unfortunately, even though we can off-road here, just to give you an idea of the terrain we would have to try and bounce over, that's not very good for cars. I think you can imagine. Especially low-hanging diff locks. Not that my diff lock's working. That doesn't mean I should smash it on a rock. As much as I might want to, I shall not. President, now that you of course have commented on how handsome he is, he's gone all shy. Handsome says that he's a beautiful lion and that it is a lovely shot. It was. Now we've got his backside, but it was a lovely shot. And I do think that Kapuli is a very striking male. He is thus named due to... Oh, can't get comfortable on your pillow rock. Up we get again. He is thus named due to a slight split in his nose. Like he used to have a piercing that got pulled out. Well, he looks perfectly happy, content and safe in his outlook over the Mara. The same cannot be said for poor Tingana.
No, not at all. Poor Tingana is stuck up a tree for now. The lions are all kind of around and looking about, and it seems as though they're starting to ignore him now. So a lot of the lead lioness that went down towards him has turned her back and has come back to this area, and as soon as these guys all start to lie down and rest, so you'll find Tingana is going to try and scamper down that tree and just get out of here as quick as possible. The thing is that he'll probably wait a little bit until they're actually quite fast asleep, because the last thing he wants is to be able to come down and all of a sudden the lions start chasing him and he doesn't have another tree to get up. At least up there the lions won't try and go up, but now you see another 2 lions are going in that direction. So just as one comes back, so 2 more head that way. Now they definitely haven't got a buffalo kill. They've got no signs of full bellies either. So having buffalo around, I think this evening we should see quite a lot happening. I'm pretty sure these guys are going to have another go at those buffalo. I'm pretty sure they were hunting them most of the morning, and they might just have another try and kind of have a crack at it again later in this afternoon or this evening. But it definitely look like they could do with another meal. They're not skinny, so they've been eating small things, I think, but they could definitely do with a big buffalo, that's for sure. The pride would be quite good for that. Now, I'm pretty sure that we're just going to sit with a stalemate at this stage. We're not going to have too much playing out from here. I don't think. The lions seem to just kind of be sniffing about, but not really that interested. Let's see. I mean, maybe the whole pride will start to move. They look like they're each just finding a little shady spot to try and lie down, and then they're going to start to settle for the morning, and that should then be the gap that Tingana can take. But you know, it's a rare thing to see lions and leopards all together the way that they are. So I suppose we can take it to all of our different platforms that we're on, so that lots of other people can see a pretty epic sighting of the lions kind of around a leopard. It's not every day, I suppose, you get to see this. So Faith, if you would like to do it, we can. So Hannah, it depends. It depends on what the leopard's doing and where it is, but pretty aggressively. I mean, Tingana got chased properly. He was chased by Amber Eyes. We just saw him flying over the cut line and over the boundary from Buffel's Hook with a lioness in tow, and then as he kind of got a bit further away, so you know, he then settled right down again. Well, I mean, she settled down and kind of started just walking behind him. Now that he's up in the tree, everything's a little bit more kind of subdued. They're still watching there. They're still looking. They're sniffing. They're looking up into the tree, but there's no food, and so for them, they don't actually really care too much. I mean, it's too high for them to get up into that particular tree, and finding food is the one reason why they would actually go and chase him. So if there was food around, then they would try and get up there and actually see what's going on. But for now, Tingana's going to have to just sit and be patient. He's going to have to wait for the lions to get sleepy, which they will. They already are starting to. One by one, I'm seeing them just kind of dropping down and starting to just put their heads down flat. And so once that happens, you'll find that he'll then very quickly be able to kind of get out of here, and he'll just come down quickly and run away. You might find that 1 or 2 lions will try to give chase a little bit, but I doubt that they're really that interested. They're looking for a carcass. They're thinking maybe, just maybe, he might have a piece of meat somewhere that they can steal. That's what they're really trying to get. Yes, most definitely. They would have seen him going up to both trees, because he was initially up a marula tree that had no foliage, that was very close to them, and all the lions have gone and sniffed at the bottom of that marula tree and are looking into that tree. And then he came down and he ran towards the jackalberry that he's in now. So they know that he's in there. They probably just can't see very well, and they can see that there's no carcass, and that's why they're not worried too much. You can see the one lioness is actually on her way back now. She's kind of moving straight towards us at the moment. So she went and sniffed around the marula tree area and has now decided that there's nothing really around, so she's going to come back. So Kelly is saying, come on girls, give it up. They will give it up eventually. Now that they know there's no meat there, they'll leave it. The problem is that Tingana is going to still have to wait until every single one is sleeping, and that might be the whole day that he's up there. You never know. Sometimes I've seen leopards, unfortunately, have to sleep up in a tree like that for hours and hours as he waits for the lions to wake up and move off and try and go somewhere else. So he might have a very long day ahead of him, especially if the lions move a little closer and decide to kind of lie at the base of the tree. Well, then he's got no chance until much later. But one thing I will say with the Nkumas is that their coats look in fantastic condition. They're glistening. They don't look like they've got any signs of mange or anything like that. They really are looking in great condition at the moment, and it's so good to have this pride around as much as we have. Hello. And we've got one that's having a look at the front of the car here and investigating. I don't know why they've decided to come and lie so close to us, but they're kind of lying right in front of the vehicle at the moment, and all of them are just having a little look at the kind of car and sniffing it and smelling it and seeing what's going on. It's quite interesting to have a whole pride kind of surrounding you a little bit. We might also be stuck like Tingana at some point, because if they lie behind us, well, then we're not going anywhere anytime soon. So we'll just see how it goes. There's one's going to scratch her feet. You can see she's busy just sharpening her claws and getting them in good condition, and everybody else seems to be kind of fairly relaxed now. You can see these heads are up, but for the most part there's not too much activity taking place. It seems as though everybody is fairly chilled now, I suppose, except for Tingana. Tingana's probably really anything but chilled up in the tree. He's probably very upset by the fact that he was chased by these lions. Right, now, while we sit with the lions and see whether or not they're actually going to get active enough to go and find Tingana, or if Tingana's going to come down, let's send you back across to Sydney, who, well, is sitting atop a termite mound and having a little look.
I am just sitting right on top of one of the big houses in the bush. This is the only insect which can be able to build a big house like this one, more or less the same size as what we can build as humans. The interesting part about this house is that it has been built by an insect which is blind. The termites, if you can check in there, there's only one group amongst the whole caste. A caste system is a system whereby you are going to have different structures. Amongst all these structures, there's only one structure having eyes, which is the reproductives. Reproductives has got very small eyes, those that flies during the summer season. The rest, the workers and the soldiers, they are completely blind. And imagine workers building this kind of a very big house, a big house like this without eyes. We build, we use spirits, we use cement, but still some of the bricklayers are not good to build. And they can build, blind insects can build something very big like this. This is amazing. So this kind of an insects, what I like the most is when one of them dies. If there is a death in here, this is what these insects are going to do. They immediately, workers must have to go and call the other workers to come. And as they come, the main responsibility is to inspect the dead body. When they are busy inspecting the body is when they are trying to check the viability of cannibalism. As some of these insects, they are cannibalists. And after that, they are going to bury that body for about 3 to 7 days. And they will come back again and eat it after 3-4 days. So they're going to just bury it for a while, and then after that, it must have to be eaten again. So these kind of insects are very much clever, and I am very much interested on how they live. Just listen to this. This is very much hard. So the sun is burning there. They are not here. They are deep under the ground. Jake, this kind of termites, inside there, they are making things. You know, termites are very good farmers, and they are farming fungus in there. They are there growing fungus, which is what they eat. So these insects, they can build, and they are good farmers. Imagine blind insects managing a farm in here and also managing this whole construction with the workers who cannot see. The termite mound is made just from simple material. For them to build this, They are just using water and the soil, and they use their own saliva, including the droppings. They've got kind of a glue. It's like a very glue saliva that they're using to build this. Sticky saliva. And this is how they're building. You see, they even got some of the small piece of rocks which then cement this kind of a termite mound. This is amazing. Simple insects. And then they have got a department which is called a soldier. So the soldiers are responsible to defend, but they don't have eyes. These insects don't have eyes, but they see and they know what's happening. If you come and open a hole like this, some other animals here, presumably this has been the mongoose, because I can even see some of the evidence. You can see there that there's some droppings for the mongoose. The mongoose presumably opened here and stay in, because the termites digs, and after that you'll see a lot of animals using the termite mound as a timeshare. Today you will see the mongoose, tomorrow something comes, because the mongoose are very much nomadic. They move from one place to the next. So these kind of small insects, they are doing some of the interesting job in there. So Mr. Kildy, that is true. This looks like a cement. And if you come here and open a little hole, they are going to detect that something has been done. They're not going to listen to it. This is how they're going to find out. If you open, normally the temperature in there is about approximately 36 to 37 degrees. And once you open, immediately that is going to affect the temperature inside. And that is how they are going to know that the temperature is changing. It means there's a hole. At the same time, workers must come to the affected part. And soldiers must also be going there in order to protect the workers when they are busy trying to cement and close the area. So I'm going to be looking for more other interesting small things here. But while doing that, let's see Tristan with Tingana.
Well, yes, we're sitting with Tingana now, who's at least found himself a fairly decent tree to kind of hide in for now. So he's high up there, and the lions, I highly doubt, will come in this direction at all. In fact, I can't even see the lions now. They all seem to have gone down and are sleeping behind us, and so he might get a gap fairly soon. You can see he's kind of way up there, hiding away and just trying to stay in an area where he can camouflage as best as possible. And I think for now he'll be fine. I mean, the lions will eventually go completely to sleep, and then from there he might kind of come down and try and scamper off. But for now he won't move. He knows that this is his safest spot that he's in. There's not too many other trees from that particular one that he can get into, and so for him, best to make 100% sure before deciding to come down and go anywhere. So he's just going to sit and watch. It seems as though he's kind of fairly comfortable now. He doesn't look as though he's too stressed. I mean, he's watching, but he doesn't look too bad about it. So, Chris, you say he looks upset. Well, I suppose you would be upset too if 11 lions had just chased you up a tree. And the thing about it was quite funny is to see him kind of running around the boundary, and I'm pretty sure he thought, oh, I'm scot-free, I've gotten away from this lioness, and then he must have just seen 10 heads pop up in front of him and thought, oh no, this has not gone well. Luckily for him, Amber Eyes was not chasing right on his tail, because he would have been in serious problem then. He was luckily enough, he kind of, Amber Eyes stopped and was just walking behind him rather than running, because if she had been right up against him, he would have hesitated potentially and would have been in real trouble. But I'm pretty sure he knew roughly where he was going. I think he knew that he's got to get to trees, and so running into this area was much easier for him to be able to then get away. But his eyes are definitely wider than they would normally be in the dopey Tingana. He's normally got this kind of dopey look about him, but today those are eyes of not dopiness at all. He's quite wired, I would imagine, and brush with death will do that to you. And he's still just watching. Like I said, I don't see any signs of the lions actually walking this way anymore. They seem to have all gone kind of flat behind us, and so I'm hoping after a while they'll just leave him alone and he'll get out of here. It's going to be interesting to see how far he goes from here, whether he's going to run a long way or if he's just going to find a safe point and just flop down. I would imagine he's going to put some distance between himself and these lions when he does eventually get down from the tree and decide that this has been a bad morning, and from when he does that, it'll be interesting to see where he eventually ends up sleeping. But I'd imagine his direction is going to be east, so he'll probably head back towards the dam maybe, or even Buffelshoek, that area. But for now, he's just going to put his paw up, he's going to get himself at least somewhat comfortable, and then probably just take a nap. This is what cats do, they often do. A leopard will just kind of end up sleeping a little bit. Wait, actually, hang on, he's standing up a little bit now. Get yourself comfy, Tingana. You're going to be in for the long haul, I'm afraid. So it's going to be a long day for him. Anyway, that's, I'm afraid, this is the life of a leopard. Like I said, it's not the first time he's been chased up a tree by lions, and certainly will not be the last time that it happens for him anyway. But it is that time of the day where we're going to start heading back. I'll stick around here for a little bit just to see what happens and whether he falls asleep. But we are going to be heading back and going and getting a breakfast of our own. It's been a magical morning, from leopards to lions to buffalo on foot. It's been all kinds of things happening on Djuma, and then of course up in the Mara too. So from Jamie, myself and Sydney, it's been an absolute pleasure. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. We'll see you this afternoon on our sunset safari.